All right. Good evening, everybody. How's everybody doing? Thank you, everybody, for your patience. We went and sent the link out to all the emails that we received for this session. Um, Thank you for the people who did send their emails and who's ready for this presentation on this evening. So pretty much what you're going to get tonight is a condensed form of the lecture. So you'll be able to see a good amount of the slides in the official lecture or presentation, but you're going to be shown enough slides so that way all the points can be made and time at the end will be reserved for question and answer. Okay. There would be a link sent out for anybody who wants to jump on the panel and may want to ask questions in regards to video chat. Otherwise, you could definitely leave your questions for the end of the presentation in the chat itself for the channel. All right. So we're about to get started shortly. I was just giving people enough time to log in and get situated and make sure that we were able to cater to everybody that sent an email out and as well as sent the message out. This was going to be done through a special invite via Zoom, but the Zoom app is down right now. So now I'm using this. This is an unlisted video on YouTube. So because we had one slot that was available after all the requests that we got, I told people that if there was any open slots, that I will open this up publicly, but only for those who have the link. So if people do not have the link, they will not be able to get into this session, okay? So for those of you who are watching this and you would like to share this link, you have the permission, my permission to do so. You can go ahead and share this link. And I'm gonna get started in maybe about a few minutes. The presentation should be about 1 hour and 15 minutes. And then I'm gonna leave about 20, 25 minutes for question and answer. And like I said, if somebody wants to jump on the panel in order to ask their questions, you know, you'll be able to do that, all right? So we're gonna give it another 60 seconds and we're gonna get started. Okay. So again, this is the link. You can share the link if you would like. You can share it either via your inbox or you can share it via Facebook, email, whatever the case may be. Now, one thing, a couple of things I want to say before we get started with the presentation is that I know this has been a longly, I don't think longly is the right word, but I know it's been a heavily anticipated lecture. A lot of people wanted to get this information for various different reasons. I've spent years of research that I've compiled and placed into this PowerPoint presentation that you're about to see. I also showcased it for our one-on-one consultations that we do, group seminars that I do on health as well. And this is closely relied to part 2 and part 3. And part 2 would be dealing with asthma, and part 3 deals with allergies because they're heavily interrelated and entangled in regards to the pathogenesis of, you know, what we see occur in atopic dermatitis, okay? So that's the first thing. The second thing is this session is made free by all those who have donated to Kingdom Harbinger Ministries, all right? Naturopathic Eden is a subsidiary of Kingdom Harbinger Ministries, and it's a naturopathic health consultation, right? And it's an educational seminar that we give in order for people to understand the root causes of eczema, as well as solutions for it, you know, applications, treatments, things of that nature, so that we can reverse the process, or you can reverse actually the pathology of the actual disease itself, okay? That's the second thing. So thank you to all you who have donated, because everybody that's in this chat or in this session is normally $100 per person for individual educational seminar. So if there's 100 people in there, times that by 100, you know, if there's 20 people in there, times that by 100. So that's how much money that we're putting towards giving this free group session as well, okay? That's the second thing that we wanted to say. The third thing is after you watch this presentation, if you're interested in our services after the seminar, feel free to send us a follow-up email saying that you're interested in our services. Now, our services is a regimen package that we offer, and the regimen package is customized to your severity of the illness, as well as taking other things into account, such as diet, supplements, exercise, etc. And what we'll do is that we'll customize a plan for you, so that way, over the course of 60 days, we can monitor your progress. And at the end of each 30-day increment, whether it's 30 to 60 or 30 to 90, depending upon the severity of the condition. At the end of that 30-day period, we're going to do a follow-up session, one-on-one session to see how you're doing. And we'll do so until either the 60 days lapse or the 90 days lapse, depending upon the severity of the condition. Now, those follow-up services is $199, all right? And with those follow-up services, we actually cater to your week by week progress, as well as at the end of the month, we do an assessment to see where you're at, and we give you a prognosis, all right? And that's what we like to do. We like to help and assist people in regards to getting on the road to wellness. Naturopath to Eden, the ideology behind that is that, naturopath has to do with things that are natural in nature, an alternative way of resolving health and wellness issues. And to Eden, the Eden is the example state that the Most High has given to man, and that we're trying to bring man back into. So that wellness is spiritual, but it also extends to the physical body as well. So this is why this service is here, because out of the cultural dynamics of our worldview, we have to help our community. And this is what this is here for as well, so you guys know. All right. And the last thing we want to mention to you guys, if you enjoy this presentation, when it is over, please, if you don't, create a testimony video of how you enjoyed the information and how much you had looked forward to it, and what your expectations are after you get the information. And you either can attempt to apply it for yourself, or you can sign up for our services afterwards if you would like for us to do it with and for you. Okay, so we would definitely greatly appreciate that. All right. So again, I'm giving you guys some time to share this link and for everybody to get in on here. All right. I'm gonna go ahead and post the link as well to people who are interested. We will get started. Okay. Does anybody have any in the chat? Have any quick questions, real quick, before we get started? If so, let me know. If not, then we're about to begin. All right. So I'm just giving y'all time there. Like I said, you can share the link if you like. And like I said, it's unlisted, so only people that have the actual link will be able to see it. I'm gonna open it up for about 5 minutes while we starting. Just give an opportunity if anybody is on the channel that they can see it real quick before we lock the session. All right. I'm gonna get back to that in a second. All right. So we'll go ahead and bring up the screen for y'all. Just give me a second and bring up the screen, bring up the presentation. And I need you guys to let me know if the audio and video is doing okay. If the audio and video is okay, please hit 1. If the audio video is okay, please hit 1. Okay, here we go. All right. So if you guys can see the screen, hit 1. If the audio and video is okay, hit 1. So as soon as I get confirmation of that, I will get started. As soon as I get confirmation of that, I will get started. All right, so I see y'all hitting 1, so cool. Okay. All right, so you guys, audio and video is on point. Nobody has any questions. Everybody can see the screen. So we're about to get started. So like I said, guys, if you want, you can definitely share the link. It's only made public right now for a few minutes, and then I'm gonna close it just to give people who are subscribers to the channel an opportunity to get in. Because like I said, I had to keep my word. I had 1 slot available. And because of such, I'm going to open it up for everyone. Give me 1 second. Let me just send this through, and we should be good to go. All right. So I got to set my phone up that way I can monitor anything in the chat. All right. Okay. All right. Okay, family. So I see everything is good. I think everybody got their links. A few minutes went by to give some people an opportunity to log in. Let's see if I can monitor. Okay. All right. All right. So do you guys see the presentation screen? Let me know if you see the presentation screen. It should be up there. Let me know if you guys can see the presentation screen. So just let me know. Hit 1 if you can see it. Okay, I got one person that says yes. You guys see it? It's clear? Okay, good, good. I'm gonna look at it on my screen. Okay. All right, so let me leave this here in case I need to monitor you guys. Okay. All right. Okay, that's good. All right, so right. And if you guys see the description, if you guys want to donate to ongoing research and development for the information, for more of the information you're about to see, because this is a work in progress, for more of the information that you would like to see in this presentation, or if you want to continue to donate so that way you can ensure that there's more future free sessions like this given out to other groups of people who may not be able to afford to either get the services or even get into the seminar. You can do so by going to www.gofundme.com/Kingdom Harbinger, right? www.gofundme.com/Kingdom Harbinger. Those of you who are not strangers to this channel, if you want to donate directly to the channel itself, you have the option to do so via the super chat. Okay. So let me go ahead and lock this thing down again. So I gave an opportunity for people to jump in. Now we're locking it down. It's just going to be us that's in here. All right. So let me lock it down. Yeah, people say they see the screen. People say they can see the screen. So as long as you can see the screen, it's not the YouTube background. Somebody's saying they see the YouTube background. I'm not sure why that's the case on their screen. I am still, I'm not sure why you only see the YouTube background screen. Maybe log out and log back in. And if so, then you should be able to see the presentation. All right. All right. So here we go, family. All right. I'm not checking the chat. You guys can communicate in the chat if you want, but I'm not going to be able to actively monitor it as I'm going through the presentation. So we're going to get into it right now. And I'm telling you, this is a lot of groundbreaking information, a lot of stuff and considerations that has not been presented to our community. But as you guys see the slides, you'll be able to understand the depth of this information. This presentation was designed with 2 different audiences in mind. It was designed also for the dermatologists as well, to get them to enhance their approach in regards to eczema, atopic dermatitis. And it's also for the laymen or common people who either suffer from eczema, atopic dermatitis, psoriasis, or who have family members or loved ones or friends, associates, coworkers that may suffer from it as well. All right. So what I'm going to do, since most of the audience that's in here is not a crowd of dermatologists, I'm going to try to simplify the terms as much as I can towards the end. Make sure you guys are writing notes down. All right. If you have any questions or something you didn't understand or you need more clarification on, definitely let me know and I'll be able to do that for you. Okay. But I will not be actively monitoring the chat until the end of the session. Okay. So just keep that in mind. All right. All right. So let's go. All right. Okay. So hope you guys enjoy. Let me pull this up. All right, y'all should be seeing the screen shortly. I'm looking on my screen to make sure y'all can see it again. Okay, here we go. I'm gonna wait till I see it. There's a slight delay. Let me make sure I see it on my mobile. Then I can confirm that you guys can see it as well. Okay. All right. So for best results, family, you want to turn, if you're using a mobile phone, you want to make sure to turn your phone in landscape mode. All right. I prefer if you're on a PC, if you watch this on a PC, because it may be some font that may be a little bit small, but I'll read it out anyway. But it's best viewed on a PC or putting your phone in landscape mode. If you have your phone in portrait mode, you're going to miss a lot of the presentation. All right. So make sure you turn your phone in landscape mode and or use a PC to watch this. All right. I don't know what's going on. Somebody told me that they got kicked out. Oh, I know exactly what's going on. I'm sorry about that, family. Hold on. There we go. All right. Are y'all there? I think some people got kicked out. My apologies. If you got kicked out, please try again. If you got kicked out, please try again. All right. All right, family. I'm sorry about that. If anybody got kicked out or you know somebody that got kicked out, tell them to try again. Yeah, I'm sorry about that. I don't know what happened. It just glitched for a second. So just log back in. Or if anybody got kicked out that you know and they saying that they got kicked out, just tell them to try the link again. Everything should be working now. All right. All right. So I'm about to go live, family. So that technical difficulty. We should be good to go. Let me share the screen. I know, family. I know the anticipation is high. I know. I got y'all. Give me 1 second. I know. Ooh, what just happened? There we go. Okay. All right, family. We're about to get started. Let me get the timer on so I can check the timer. All right. So we're about to begin. Let me just see. All right. Everybody hit 1 if you can see the screen. Hit 1 more time if you can see the screen. Just give me confirmation that you can see it and we're going to get started. All right. Just hit 1 and we're going to get started, family. Just hit 1. Hit 1 and we're going to get started. Come on, family. Let me see your feedback. Hit 1 so I know you can see the screen so I can get started. Like I said, please have your phone in landscape mode. All right. Turn your phone sideways. Watch it in landscape mode. It's best viewed from landscape mode or via a PC or Mac. All right. So I need some feedback so I can get started, family. Hit 1. I don't know why my chat's not showing up. All right. Okay, I see it now. All right, so everybody can see it. All right, like I said, family, feel free to share the link, but only those with the link can actually view the presentation. If you don't have the link, it's not public. You will not be able to view the presentation. And because of one missing slot, I was able to provide this openly for everybody. Like I said, everybody in here typically would be $100 charge for this seminar, but all of you guys getting it for free is about 20 people in here. So that's about $2,000 that we're just giving out, simply based on the donation and support from the people who support Kingdom Harbinger Ministry. So we want to thank everybody that's in here right now for all their help. All right. So we're going to go ahead and get started, family. Like I said, as I'm going, I'm not going to be able to see the comments like that. You can communicate with each other in the chat, but please hold your questions until the end of the presentation. All right. Okay. So let's go. Let's go. All right. So the name of this presentation is called Get It Under Your Skin, Understanding the Root Causes of Eczema and How to Resolve Them, okay? This presentation is being done by Natural Path to Eden, all right, which I'm also a member of Natural Path to Eden. Natural Path to Eden is a subsidiary of Kingdom Harbinger Ministries, and we have other subsidiaries as well, such as Jubilee Manumission that deals with debt elimination, as well as other services that we have from other members who are part of Kingdom Harbinger Ministries. So Natural Path to Eden is the brand that I launched, as health consultation, as well as the other consultants that we have and the people that do referrals as well. If you would like employment with Natural Path to Eden, you can definitely email us at naturalpathtoeden@gmail.com. All right, if you want employment with that. So this particular lecture is honing in specifically on eczema. And eczema falls under the umbrella of atopic dermatitis. Okay. Now, psoriasis is also a form of atopic dermatitis, but this lecture is not geared heavily towards psoriasis, but a lot of the suggestions that you see in here can also address psoriasis as well. Okay. Like I said, this presentation has been designed for 2 different audiences. It's been designed first for those in the specialty of dermatology, and as well as those who are commoners who either themselves have eczema, have a loved one that has eczema, a child that has eczema, a family, a friend, a coworker, or know somebody that has eczema. Okay. So being that this presentation is for both audiences, I know the audience that's watching right now, mostly laymen or commoners. So what I'm going to try to do is do my best to break down the jargon so that way it's easily understood. Please have a pen and paper ready. Write down any notes or questions that you may have for the last 20 or so minutes that we have after the presentation, and I will do my best to answer those for you. Again, this is a presentation that's like 120 something slides. I'm not going to go through each and every slide. I'm just going to give you guys a preview, but I'm going to give you enough information that you guys can understand the root causes as well as treat it yourself. Okay. And like I said, after it's over, if you're interested in in our packages that we offer for our regimens, you can feel free to email us as well at Natural Path to Eden or Kingdom Harbinger Ministries, and we will assist you. Okay. So for starting off, we want to give you guys a disclaimer. All right. This presentation is for educational purposes only. The presenter is a naturopathic researcher and not a physician. If you are suffering from severe atopic dermatitis, eczema reactions, you should consult your doctor and or dermatologist immediately. No solutions suggested are being promoted to directly treat or cure any disease as prescriptions, but are for recommendation purposes only. All right. So I want to make sure that that's clear and that we understand this disclaimer. All right. Let's move forward. Okay. So pandemic. Now, the reason why research and development has to be invested into atopic dermatitis or eczema is because it is technically a pandemic. All right. The definition of pandemic is a disease prevalent throughout an entire country, continent, or whole world, epidemic over a large area. Okay. That's why you have the word pan, which means all. Okay. So eczema prevalence in the United States, a substantial proportion of the U.S. population has symptoms of eczema. 31.6 million with eczema and at least 17.8 million with moderate to severe eczema or dermatitis. The prevalence of childhood eczema atopic dermatitis in the U.S. is 10.7% overall and as high as 18.1% in individual states and 21% across various countries. Approximately 1 out of every 3 children with eczema dermatitis has moderate to severe form of the disease. A recent study found that the prevalence of eczema in adults could be as high as 10.2%, which suggests that most children with eczema, atopic dermatitis continue to be affected even into adulthood. 3% of U.S. adults have moderate to severe atopic dermatitis or eczema requiring systematic therapy. These numbers are much higher than for psoriasis, a disease that now has many good targeted treatments for moderate to severe patients. Yet, there are still very large unmet needs for the treatment of patients with eczema, atopic dermatitis. The discrepancy between the higher prevalence and lack of good treatments for moderate to severe eczema stems in part from an incomplete understanding of the disease. For many years, there was an active debate whether the primary defect is in the skin barrier or an immune abnormality, right? So what I'm here to tell you guys is that me personally, I suffer from eczema from the age of 3 all the way into my adulthood. I finally got it under control about 4 years ago is when I finally got under control. I've been struggling to control it since 2010 when I decided that I was going to take matters into my own hands, research, look into this and see what I can do to treat myself. And if I'm successful, then I will offer as a service to the community. And lo and behold, I was able to treat myself. It took me a good amount of time. I mean, I think it's really 2011 is when I started. So from 2011 to about 2014, I've been doing and experimenting, and then finally in 2013, at the end of 2013, I finally got it under wraps, and have not had a flare up since. Okay, and this is somebody who was a chronic sufferer of eczema. Okay, so I did my research. Now, one thing that you'll notice is that when you read this article here from the nationaleczema.org website, they said the discrepancy between the higher prevalence and lack of good treatments for moderate to severe eczema stems in part from an incomplete understanding of the disease. So many people that are in here, if you suffer, have a loved one that suffer, a family, a friend member, whoever, a child, you know, if you have chronic eczema, it's very difficult to treat. Okay. And the reason for that, I believe, is because a lot of the approach to eczema is normally preventive measures and or a topical application. Okay. Sometimes you may even get an antibacterial, okay, or antibiotic. And that can help only if there's a staph infection at the surface of the skin, but that does not fix the root cause of eczema. Okay. And I'm going to explain to you guys what that is. All right. So reading this can be very dismal, but I'm here to tell you guys that I've researched this and I've got enough information that I'm sure that will help you in one way or another. All right. So let's move forward. Okay. Now, the importance of using double-blinded placebo case studies. Okay. Now I'm gonna read a little bit of this, but I have it here on the screen. So those of you, when this presentation is over, if you have the link, you can always go back and research it and read it for yourself. But the reason why what I'm showing you is very, very critical to this presentation is because most people who give you suggestions for a solution, a remedy, or whatever the case may be, they're mostly giving it to you from their subjective experience, right? That it's worked for them or it's worked for someone else they know. But when you ask them, well, what is the mode of action for this, item that you're prescribing that I use for eczema, right? And then you say to them, has this been tested in the lab? Has it been experimented? What were the results? The most important thing is double-blinded placebo case studies. And now we're going to see what a double-blinded placebo case study is, because if anybody gives you a suggestion and they're unable to produce this type of work, that means that they're only giving you something based on what they read, what they heard, but they cannot prove its effectiveness. Okay. So anything that I recommend to you as a solution, I have what you're seeing right here. I have a randomized double-blind placebo-controlled studies because it is the gold standard in intervention-based studies. And in this case, we're trying to intervene in the pathology of a particular disease that most of us suffer from. So I'm only going to give you solutions based on things that have been done in a lab, that have been experimented in a lab with a controlled group of people who either have taken placebos or have taken the solution that I'm offering, that I'm sharing with you guys in here, and they have brought back the results, and they saw that, wow, you know what, the application of this particular solution is actually effective. So I'm going to show you the references to all the solutions, okay? And that's why this is important, all right? Studies follow a hierarchy in terms of the quality of evidence that they can provide. Randomized double-blind placebo case studies, RDBPC, are considered the gold standard of epidemiologic studies. And the same is discussed at length in this paper. Take an example of a real journal article employing this study designed to answer the research question: does once daily dose of valacyclovir reduce the risk of transmission of genital herpes in a susceptible partner? RDBPC studies remain the most convincing research design in which randomly assigning the intervention can eliminate the influence of unknown or immeasurable confounding variables that may otherwise lead to bias and incorrect estimate of treatment effects. Also, randomization eliminates confounding by baseline variables and by blinding eliminates confounding by co-interventions, thus eliminating the possibility that the observed effects of intervention are due to differential use of other treatments. The best comparison is placebo control that allows participants, investigators, and staff to be blinded. The advantage of trial over an observational study is the ability to demonstrate causality. Hope this will be useful to neophyte researchers to understand causal hierarchy when critically evaluating epidemiologic literature. Now, what does all that mean in a nutshell? It pretty much means that if somebody's offering you a solution, and because they've taken that solution and they've observed the results of it on themselves, they are convinced that into you and for you. And that is not always going to be the case because everybody's body is different, right? So what they're saying here is that when a person who proposes a solution is giving it to a third party who's doing the testing on a controlled group of people, where some of them are given placebos, some of them are given the actual item itself, and neither one of these people know what they received. And after they come back after an extended period of time and they're able to document the results, they can then objectively let you know whether or not this particular method of resolving the issue or disease is actually effectual. Okay, so this is why anything that I suggest to you, I have the documentation, medical and scientific documentations from journals, articles, etc., validating the effectiveness of the solutions that I provide. All right, let's move forward. All right, now before we proceed, we have to go into some definitions. All right, so let's go into them. All right, some quick definitions. We need to know what the epidermis is. Okay, we need to know what the stratum granulosum is. All right, we have to know what the stratum corneum is. Okay, and then we have to understand what atopic dermatitis is. Okay, now atopic dermatitis is an umbrella term. Falling under atopic dermatitis is eczema, which is really what we're focusing on in this presentation. Okay, so I'm going to go over this with you guys real quick. Those of you on a PC, you can see it. If you're on a phone, it might be a little small, but I'm going to go over it with you guys real quick, all right? So you can see my mouse moving. So over here to the far left, we see normal skin, all right? So in the normal skin, the epidermis is the outer layer of the skin. It's the last layer of the skin in which the skin flakes off from. Dead skin dries up and flakes off of, okay? That's natural, okay? Underneath the epidermis is the dermis layer, where we see a lot of the blood vessels in here. And there's other things in here as well. We're going to get into that. But you also see that there's an oil gland, okay? That's the sebaceous gland that we also have here at the follicle, at the root of the follicle of the hair, okay? You also have a sweat gland that comes through the dermis and comes out through the epidermis. You have your nerve cells as well here, okay? And then you also have the fatty tissues, which is the lower layer, which is the hypodermis, okay? Which is this area right here with the fatty tissues, okay? Now, this particular disease that we're referencing to, most of it affects the epidermis layer of your skin, the outer layer of your skin, okay? And as you can see here, we have examples of the 3 layers of skin as is highlighted by the coloring, okay? You have the outer layer was epidermis, you have the dermis layer, okay? And then you have the hypodermis layer, which is the fat cells, okay? Now, again, the epidermis is the body's miracle wrap. Outside of our bodies is a thin layer of dead cells, less than the thickness of shrink wrap. These tightly welded cells serve as an extremely effective first line of defense against the outside world. Below this layer are specialized cells that continually replenish the lining of dead cells, okay? Then that's the dermis, the body's leather. The second layer of our body armor is the dermis, made of tough collagen fibers. These fibers are woven together like fabric to keep our skin strong and flexible. This layer also houses a network of small blood vessels and sweat glands that keep our body temperature constant despite the changing extremes of the outside world. Then you have the hypodermis, which is the back of the support, and it's the third layer of our body armor, provides support. Here, body fat is stored for energy, sweat glands produce sweat, hair grows, and new skin is manufactured to repair deep cuts. All right. So as we look at it even further, here are the various cell types and layers of the epidermis. The stratum corneum and the stratum granulosum are the ones that we're going to spend a lot of time on as well. But you also may hear me mention the stratum basal area and the stratum spinosum area. Okay. I'm not going to touch on the dermis too much, but we're going to focus more on these upper layers here, more particularly the stratum corneum and the stratum granulosum. Okay. Now, as you can see here, over here on this side on the right, you have the dead keratinocyte cells. And we're going to go into what keratin is a little bit. You also see the sweat ducts, the living keratinocytes, because as you have what's called transdermal differentiation, that means as cells go from the bottom up, they change in function, okay, to the point where they get to the very end, which is the stratum corneum, and then they flake off, okay? So your keratin that's in your skin that's produces keratinocytes, and these are the cells that move from being alive at this layer in the spinosum layer until they get to the stratum corneum layer where they actually die off, and that's when they flake off, okay? A lot of people have issues with the skin flaking off properly, and there's a buildup of dead tissue, and this is a result of that is what you get what's called psoriasis. Okay, now we're going to learn about the dendritic cell, which is extremely important to understand this process. The sweat pores as well is also very important because you have AMPs. We're going to get into what an AMP is. The sebaceous gland, which is at the root of your follicle as well, produces oil. That also is very important as well. That also has AMPs in it as well. Okay, and then we're going to get into the dendritic cell, which is, what this is. We also have Langerhans cells, which we're going to get into as well. But I'm going to explain to you why all of these components are important. And we're going to look at it a little further. Okay, so let's move forward. Right. So here's another thing that helps us to define what the epidermis is. And I read it for you guys already. It's the upper or outer layer of the two main layers of cells that make up the skin. The epidermis is mostly made up of flat, scale-like cells called squamous cells because they are squeezed and compacted as they move up and flake off the skin, okay? Under the squamous cells are round cells called basal cells, which I showed you before. The deepest part of the epidermis also contains melanocytes, okay? These produce melanin, which gives the skin its color. We're not going to get into too much about melanocytes, all right? But as you can see here on the left, another image of what I was explaining to you guys. What you see on the right, again, another image of what I was explaining to you guys, all right? The lamellar granules is very important. We're going to get into that. The Langerhans cells, which we saw in the previous slide, is your dendritic cell, okay? But it's a specialized dendritic cell called a Langerhans cell. We're going to get into what that thing does, what's its role, all right? And we're going to look at here, this is the squamous differentiation, like I told you guys, moving from the bottom up, okay? And we can see here an explanation of what these things is, the corneocyte desquamation, final formation of the corneocytes. So we're going to read that, but you start from the bottom up. So first you have the formation of the keratinocytes, production of keratin filaments, production of adhesion molecules. This is extremely important. We're going to get into that. As you go from the dermis to the epidermis, right? You have the formation of lamellar bodies, which is very important because this right here is responsible for coating the cells as they move up and differentiate, okay? And you have the synthesis of precursor lipids. Lipids is also important. They tie hand in hand with these lamellar bodies. And these things are the fatty acids and cholesterols that are responsible for coating these cells as they're moving up in order to keep moisture in, keep the bad guys or, bacteria and pollen, everything else out. But again, we're going to see why this process breaks down, okay? Then you get from the keratinocyte to the corneocyte transition, right? The keratinocytes, they flatten. They contain keratohyalin granules, which contain profilagrin. Keep this in mind. Profilagrin is very important. Plus lamellar bodies, which contain precursor lipids, some enzymes, and antimicrobial peptides. Remember I told you about AMPs? That's what this is, antimicrobial peptides. You actually have a less amount of these that the body produces when you are predisposed with eczema or atopic dermatitis. So we have to find ways how to restore all these things that break down. Profilagrin, then converts to the filagrin, but profilagrin is an issue because filagrin itself, it breaks down. The purpose of filagrin is to keep those keratinocytes together. It's like the mortar when you look at bricks, all right? And when this mortar breaks down, there's a loss of function, no function, etc., things get through. And when things get through, it freaks out the body, and then a whole cascade of things start to occur, okay? So the last part is the final formation of the corneocytes, hence why it's called the stratum corneum, or the upper layer, okay? Or the outer layer, or corneum layer, okay? Organelles enzymatically degrade, precursor lipids extruded into SC, converted to fatty acids and ceramides. Now, any of you guys who suffer from eczema, you go to the store and purchase Aveeno, any of these other products, and you look at the ingredients, you may see the word ceramide, all right? Ceramide is responsible for, again, keeping the skin cells moisture locked, okay? So that water does not escape. It also keeps the skin in a glistening state and prevents baddies from coming in, okay? What happens is the body has a loss of high production of ceramides, and because of such, you get xerosis or dry skin and various other things that occur, okay? Now, from the profilagrin, you get the filagrin, and filagrin plus the transglutaminases, and anytime you see a ASES, that has to do with an enzyme. Cross-link, that means two cells touch or communicate. Proteins of cornified cell envelope, and a cornified cell envelope, again, is the flattening of these corneocyte cells that were once keratinocyte cells, okay? And again, all the thing that you got to take away from this is that as cells move from the dermis all the way to the outer layer, which is the epidermis, these cells have a function down here, and as they're moving up, their function starts to change. An example is the filagrin that I shared with you guys earlier. The filagrin itself, because it's the mortar that holds together or collapse together the keratinocyte cells, as it's moving its way up, it changes its function to what's called the NMF, a natural moisturizing factor. And its job is to ensure that the outer layer of the skin is moisturized, so that way you can dispel the colonization of any type of bacteria, as well as prevent water loss, okay? But when the filagrin does not do its job well, this is when you have the breakdown of everything else. And we're going to go forward, and I'm going to explain these things to you, okay? So far, hopefully everybody's good. All right. So the slide on the right, the picture on the right is a little bit in depth. So I'm just going to focus on the left side for you guys. All right. But it's there if you want to read it. Okay. So the stratum corneum, which we read, was really what we're going to focus on. But let's jump to the stratum basal so you can see what happens there. Okay. At the stratum basal, cells divide by mitosis, okay? And some of the newly formed cells become the cells of the more superficial strata, okay, or stratum, all right? Now, as it's moving up, in stratum spinosum, you have the keratin fibers and lamellar bodies accumulate, okay? And they're always together, and that's very important that you understand this part. Once we get to the stratum granulosum, you have keratohyalin in a hard protein envelope form. Lamellar bodies release lipids, cells die, okay? This is when the cells start to die, when they move up to this point here, okay? At the stratum lucidum, dead cells containing dispersed keratohyalin, all right? And then as we get to the last layer, the stratum corneum, where the cells collapse, so they become squamous, they collapse into a cornified cell envelope. Dead cells with a hard protein envelope, and this is why you get that your skin is very, it's like an armor, almost. Like when you touch your skin, that outer layer itself becomes very hard, but as you push on your skin, you'll feel like a fatty tissue there. And again, that's the other layers that I showed to you guys. And then you also have muscles and everything else underneath that, okay? But that's important. As you can see here, you have intercellular lipids. And the purpose of these intercellular lipids is to pretty much block off anything from the outside coming in. And these lipids are made up of, some amino acids, some cholesterol, and then also ceramides as well, which we saw earlier, all right? Keratin, right? We see keratin cells, they're here. These are keratinocytes as well. The lamellar bodies are the ones responsible for releasing lipids. So if you have an issue up here with the lipids actually providing the glue in between cells and keeping things out as the cells gradually flake off, if you have an issue with these lamellar bodies in your body, then you're going to have a loss of lipid functionality. When that happens, then that can also contribute to xerosis, which is the drying of the skin, okay? Then you have the protein envelopes, which are formed here, the keratohyalin granules, which is here, okay? The lipid-filled lamellar bodies, they start off here. As they move up, they start off in conjunction with the keratin. Whoops, let me go back. Sorry about that. In conjunction with the keratinocytes, and as they move up, they start to splinter off and have their own functions as they move their way up. Okay, and then you have the desmoid zone, the nucleus, hemidesmoid zone, and the basement membrane. So these things we're not really going to focus on. The most important things, like I said, is looking at the keratins, the lipid, the keratohyalin granules, the protein envelope, the melar body. Which is responsible for the lipids, the keratin. Now, also you have filaggrin in here as well, which I mentioned to you guys, because as I show you guys this, you'll see how important filaggrin is, okay? Now, over here on the right, like I said, I don't want to get too much into this because it's a little bit complicated. But if you focus on here, the stratum granulosum and the stratum lucidum and corneum. The stratum granulosum is important because the major product of keratinocytes in this layer is the non-intermediate filament protein filaggrin. Filaggrin induces the aggregation of keratins. Lipids form lamellar bodies. So if you have an issue with filaggrin not expressing itself the way it's supposed to in the stratum granulosum layer, you're going to have an issue as the cells go from one part of the dermis to another part of the epidermis, which is called transdermal migration. And as they go through differentiation, which means they change as they move from a base level all the way to the outer level, filaggrin has multiple functions. And when this breaks down, everything else breaks down. And the problem is a lot of treatments are not addressing the expression of filaggrin because as we're going to see going forward, this particular dis-ease, quote unquote, is an outer issue. Okay, you can never treat this just from the outside, and you can never treat this just from the inside. It must be treated both outside and inside. All right, so let's move forward. Okay, we went into the stratum granulosum, so I'm gonna skip that. All right, went to the stratum corneum, which is important. The stratum corneum refers to the outermost layer of the epidermis, which itself is itself the outer layer of the skin. The full name of the stratum corneum of the skin is the stratum corneum epidermidis. The other stratum corneum, the stratum corneum unguis, is the horny compact outer layer of the nail. All right, and Latin stratum equals layer and corneum equals horny, so stratum corneum is horny layer. Okay, so let's move forward. All right, and as you can see, I put some more slides up here to explain what's going on here. Now I can go into this to you guys real point because this is very, very important when it comes to eczema. Okay, so here, right, where callus as abnormal thickening of the epidermis is formed, the lamellar granules in this layer make it water repellent. That's why I told you what the lamellar granules do. They coat the cells as they move up and differentiate, okay? A barrier to light, heat, water, chemicals, and bacteria, and 25 to 30 layers of flat dead cells filled with keratin and surrounded by lipids continuously shed here in the stratum corneum layer. Critical steps in SC formation, very important. SC stands for stratum corneum. All right. You have the stratum basal, stratum spinosum, stratum granulosum, stratum compactum, stratum disjunctum. And these are also other names for the various layers within the stratum corneum. Okay. As we're moving our way up. So cells are linked by desmosomes. All right. We have transglutaminase mediated corneocyte envelope formation. Okay. Again, this is enzymic or enzymatic activity that's taking place here when dealing with the corneums as they start to flatten and harden and move their way up. Okay. You have keratohyalin formation and NMF, precursor profilaggrin. NMF is natural moisturizing factors, and that's one of the features of filaggrin, which first starts off as profilaggrin in this layer. You have the lamellar granule formation and the lipid precursors. You have the acidification and lipid lamellar bilayer formation. Remember I told you what the lamellar bodies is, that they release the coating that goes over the cells. The dehydration triggers conversion of filaggrin to NMF. So anytime the body senses that dehydration is taking place, it starts to convert this excess filaggrin in this area to become a natural moisturizing factor so it can take care of the dehydration problem. Now, again, this is only in cells that are working the way it's supposed to. And then we have the transglutaminase mediated corneocyte strengthening, what starts to happen here, what starts to become that horny part of the body, and then progressive corneodesomal degradation and desquamation, what starts to happen at the top. So desquamation is at the point after it's flattened, it starts to scale off. Okay, and this happens constantly, so many times in a day. All right, but the most important thing is looking at the various layers of cells. What stands out? that things start to happen. What the issues is with the filaggrin. Filaggrin is one of the main issues. Another, also the ceramides, the cholesterols, the amino acids, everything that contributes to locking in moisture and acting as a repellent barrier to keep things from the outside from coming in. So these are things that you want to keep in mind. And I have this up here. Like I said, you can take notes, write down questions if you have them, and I'll try to address them as much as I can. But again, I'm educating you on, you know, how the skin works and the parts of the skin that actually breaks down. All right. So let's move forward. Now, atopic dermatitis, pay attention to what I have highlighted in bold. All right. A skin disease characterized by areas of severe itching, redness, scaling, and loss of surface of the skin. Now, atopic, right? Atopic means something that is on top of something else, and dermatitis, dermis has to do with the layer, the dermis layer of the skin. Itis is the swelling of, okay? So the swelling of the outer layer of the dermis, okay? That's what atopic dermatitis breaks down to. Atopic dermatitis is the most common of the many types of eczema. Atopic dermatitis is frequently associated with other allergic disorders, especially what? Asthma and hay fever. A defect of the immune system within the skin has been detected in patients who have atopic dermatitis, but the reason for the defect is unknown. That is frightening for anybody that suffers for eczema. You don't want to go to the dermatologist who have invested himself or herself years of studying this, getting an MD degree and going through and then, you know, putting forth dissertation papers and everything like that. And the field of dermatology that's been researching this for, I mean, we talking over 60, 70, 80 years, okay, almost, in regards to this specialized area of health. And the bottom line that they tell you is the reason for the defect is unknown. So all of this money that we're paying to dermatologists and to research, where's it going from? Going to? How is it that they are unable to discover why this is happening? Okay. Now, what I'm here to tell you guys is that I'm not saying I'm going to do any miracles on here, but what I'm saying is I'm definitely going to point you in the right direction. That when you see the root causes, you can understand, you know, how to prevent them if you can, or how to reverse them if it's possible, or how to treat it and keep it under control. Okay. Now, here's an illustration of dermatitis. Now, these two images are extremely important. Now, everything else that I showed you guys is just explaining to you how the layers of the epidermis works. Again, the more importantly, the stratum corneum. But if you want to know the actual pathology of the disease called atopic dermatitis, which results in what we call eczema, these two images are extremely important. All right. So let me go over it with you guys real quick. Let's look over here to the left. Okay. So normal skin, this is what normal skin looks like. Everything is tightly packed together. You see? Tightly packed keratinocytes forming a natural barrier. Okay. This is important. And in between these keratinite cells is a protein that we just read earlier, filaggrin, as well as lipids, okay, and other things to keep everything tightly packed together in normal skin. All right. And this is what normal skin looks like. Now, this is what dermatitis looks like. Penetration of allergens. Why? Because skin cells are less tightly held together. And not only are they less tightly held together, but a lot of other functionality starts to break down, such as the natural moisturizing factors, the ceramide coating, the lipid coating, and everything else, the AMPs, which you're going to get into a little bit later, which is the antimicrobial peptides. A peptide is a smaller protein chain that has its own functionality, all right? But a lot of things start to break down. When just a few things happen, everything else breaks down. And we're going to see what happens that causes everything to break down and what causes that thing to happen, okay? Now, as the cells are spaced out and, you know, there's nothing in between them, now you have the penetration of various allergens, all right? These allergens, they come in and they cause a lot of damage, okay? Ingress of allergens causes inflammation. Why? Because now when the white blood cells get involved, they send cytokines and other signaling messages to the other cells for the cells to dilate. So that way more blood can get there, more cells can get there, and also to bring attention to this area that is damaged, all right, or harmed or infected, okay? You have a loss of water and fat, okay? And you see how this happens normally up at this layer. So most people that have dermatitis, right, or eczema, normally at this layers of the skin, right, the dermis and hypodermis, everything is typically okay. The breakdown happens in the epidermis layer, okay, and that's important. Now, this slide over here shows you the cycle of eczema, okay? Now, again, two things happen. You have an abnormality of the immune system, and once the immune system is abnormal and it encounters a situation that is also abnormal, the immune system freaks out. But if the immune system, was the way that it is, let's say your immune system is compromised in some way, but your skin barrier is functioning properly, then more than likely you will not have eczema. Keyword is more than likely. But when there's an issue with the skin, and again, we're going to see there's a mutation that happens here that causes this to happen in the upper layer of the skin. Once the skin just stops functioning the way it's supposed to, then what it does is that it puts your cells on high alert. Okay, you have what's called antigen presenting cells, right? And these antigen presenting cells are the Langerhans cells, or these mast cells that specialize into Langerhans cells. And what their job is, they're always moving throughout this layer, and they're sampling the protein shells of anything that falls on the outer layer of the skin, whether it's pollen, pet dander, ragweed, bacteria. And once it samples it, what it does next is that it travels into the blood to the lymph nodes, and it presents a piece of that protein shell to the T cell to charge up the T cell to wage a war against this potential antigen if it enters into the body. All right, so it predisposes your body, and chances are several things can happen depending upon how that Th0 cell differentiates. It could be a Th1 cell or a Th2 cell. Those are called helper T cells. But you also have what's called a cytotoxic T cell, and that's TC cells, okay? And the cytotoxic T cells designed to search out abnormal cells, penetrate it, and insert enzymes into it and break it down. The helper cells, on the other hand, what they do is that they direct traffic, okay, for other white cells to launch an attack against what's going on, okay? You have an innate immune system and an adaptive immune system, okay? So the adaptive immune system will be your T cells, your B cells. Your innate immune system will be these Langerhans cells, right, which would be the antimicrobial peptides that the skin produces. It could also be things such as the natural moisturizing factors and other things that actually repel anything from coming out that's on the outside from coming in. So it's anything that's already there at the site before it's injured that's responding. A lot of times, you have white blood cells, various types of white blood cells, neutrophils, etc., that make their way, macrophages that make their way to the site of injury, and they just wage a frontline attack. Okay, but them waging an attack is not as organized as if whatever's attacking the body, again, is sampled by these mast cells or these Langerhans cells or these dendritic cells, and it's brought back to the T cells. And the T cells is like, oh, okay, I see what the enemy is. So this is the type of war we're going to launch. And the T cells, depending upon if it's a Th1 cell, Th2 cell, they can produce things called interleukin cells. Interleukin proteins. And the purpose of interleukin proteins is to communicate. Cells to communicate to each other. It gives instructions for certain cells on what to do, whether that's to inflame or get bigger, whether that's to do this action, do that action. So interleukins always, when it's produced, it forces a reaction from another cell. So the T cell can cause certain cells to do certain things in order to assist in waging a war against something that has infiltrated it. Okay. You also have tumor necrosis factor proteins or alpha proteins, and then you also have INF, which is another inferion. And the purpose of these inferion is to prevent viruses from spreading and things of that nature. So these T cells are very, very important for protecting the body and waging a war, and it's part of your adaptive immune system, okay? And you have an issue because the T cells start to produce the wrong interleukins, and when the wrong interleukins are produced, it then predisposes you for type 1 hypersensitivity, okay? But if you look here at this demographic, or this image, not demographic, this image, excuse me, this visual graphic, you'll see that when there's a abnormal skin barrier, when there's imperfections in the skin barrier based on things that are not functioning properly, that are mutated, etc., you have increased antigen entry, which again can be bacteria, it could be pollen, it could be ragweed, it could be pet dander, it could be whatever the case may be. Then you have Langerhans cell activation. The Langerhans cells are responsible for sampling these things and bringing it back to the T cell, so the T cell can then recognize it and wage a war against it, okay? Then what happens is the Langerhans cells goes into the lymph nodes, communicates to the T cells. The T cells get activated, and what happens is you have Th2 cells, all right, that are produced. So you have two types of T cells. You have a Th1 cell, Th2 cells. These are CD4 helper cells. And a CD8 cell, T cell, is a cytotoxic T cell. Those are the T cells that turn on and they go and look out for enemy cells, whether it's friendly or foe, and they kill it off because something is wrong. All right. But in this case, it activates the Th2 cells, which then produces a few peculiar interleukins, which we're going to learn about. And those interleukins then send the wrong message of attack, and it puts the body into a heightened stage of defense. And that's not what you want, because when that happens and the body overreacts anytime that, after it's sensitized, that means after it first encounters this enemy, it's sensitized to it. And that means that reoccurring entry of these antigens is going to cause the immune system to go out of whack. Okay. So as that happens, these Th2 cells, through these interleukins, start to produce pro-inflammatory mediators, or things that promote inflammation, which is where we get the dermatitis at. And atopic is on top of the dermis that's swollen. Okay. And then from there, you get decreased ceramide, filaggrin, and AMPs, which is antimicrobial peptides. Your body has several weapons to fight against the outside world, okay, to protect itself and protect your organs and everything else. Your skin is constantly in contact with the outside world. Not just your skin, your mucosal membranes in your nose and your throat is always, your stomach is always encountering the outside world. Okay, your other organs, such as your heart, your liver, your pancreas, your kidneys, those are typically protected from the outside world unless something happens and the body cannot protect those internal organs. But because the skin is constantly, shedding, constantly coming into contact with all types of stuff, it is always fighting on your behalf. But what happens is that there's a breakdown of your strategic forces that are fighting on your behalf that causes eczema to occur. And I'm going to get into a few of these causes. I'm going to explain some of the definition of these things, and then I'm going to get into the solutions. Okay. So I'm looking at our time. We should be doing okay on time. So let's go ahead and get started. Okay. So once we see all these things here, again, this is a great image because it shows you how everything works. It's a cycle that keeps going and keeps going and keeps going. So again, once the ceramides break down, which is responsible for coating the cells, and once the cells are coated, they also repel anything from the outside. They keep water in, etc. The filaggrin is responsible as a protein that pulls together the keratinocytes and keeps them close together. And as it moves up, the filaggrin moves up. When there's dehydration, is sensed by the body. It then turns into a natural moisturizing factor, which moisturizes the cells and keeps the cells with that glistening glow that it has. But then that decreases. And then the antimicrobial peptides, they also decrease. So when you have staph colonization, now they are opportunistic bacteria that typically don't bother you under normal circumstances, but become opportunistic, and they infiltrate the body and they can cause a lot of damage. And you don't have the appropriate AMPs to fend off colonization of staph, all right, bacteria and other types of yeast and other things that tries to accumulate on the surface of the skin. So these AMPs typically kill them off or keep them under control. The ceramide keeps them from coming in. The filaggrin produces a natural moisturizing factor to keep the skin at a particular level, and the skin pH, which we're going to learn about, is extremely important. All right, your skin pH is not alkaline. Your skin pH is not alkaline. Your skin pH is slightly acidic, and that is for a reason. When your skin is acidic, it keeps any kind of bacteria from colonizing on the surface of the skin. If the skin is alkaline, guess what? It promotes in the skin, and any breaks you have in the skin will start off a reaction from the immune system, immune response. All right. So don't let nobody tell you that, every part of your body has to be alkaline. That is a farce. Okay. And anybody that mentions that to anybody that's a medical practitioner, they will laugh at them, because that's absolutely not true. What studies have they done? And those double-blinded placebo case studies that they can prove that an alkaline base skin pH can actually be beneficial to people who have dermatitis. They'd have to prove that to you. All right. So let's move forward. All right. So remember, I mentioned to you that you have the outside, inside, outside hypothesis for the pathogenesis of atopic dermatitis. you have an issue with the skin, and then you have an issue with the immune system. So if you read the abstract from this journal article, it says the pathogenesis of atopic dermatitis has been attributed largely to abnormalities in the adaptive immune system. Remember, I told you you have an innate immune system and an adaptive immune system, all right? And it says, with key roles played by the T helper 1 and T helper 2 cell dysregulation, IgE production. So your interleukins, your tumor necrosis factor, your INFs, which is your interferons, and then you have this Ig, which is an antibody. So there's a dysregulation and there's a defunction that happens in your T cells that start to produce IgE antibodies, which are the wrong antibodies to respond to any kind of allergen that's penetrating the skin, okay? Dendritic cell signaling, mast cell hyperactivity, okay? The mast cells are the cells that degranulate, which means they burst open when they come into contact with something it has already been sensitized to. So you have antibodies that attach themselves to these mast cells, and whenever these mast cells cross-link with the outer casing of anything that's coming into the body, it then explodes or degranulates, and it dumps into the body all of these proteins that send signals for the rest of the body to do other things, okay? These cells start to accumulate in a much more increased activity than normal skin, and they freak everybody else out. The dendritic cells, they come on high alert where they sample everything on the surface and they bring everything back to the T cells, which is also has a dysfunction and produces the wrong antibody, which is designed to protect the body. And then that produces a cascade of issues, okay? So also it says, accordingly, therapy has been focused on ameliorating, the Th2 mediated inflammation and pruritus. Indeed, there is emergent evidence that inflammation in AD results first from inherited and acquired insults to alter epidermal structure and function, followed by immune system activation, which in turn has negative consequences for the skin barrier homeostasis. Homeostasis is when the body tries to maintain stability, that everything's working in proper order. This cycle compromises an outside-inside model of the AD, atopic dermatitis, pathogenesis. So we have a breakdown of the outer layer of the skin, a breakdown of the immune system, and then when the immune system starts to freak out and you get what's called type 1 hypersensitivity, right? When the body is predisposed and sensitized, after it has come into a contact with these first antigens, they're first allergens, but they turn to antigens when they come into body and do adverse issues or cause adverse issues. Now the body starts to freak out every time it comes into contact because the body is now sensitized by IgE antibodies, all right? And if you ever seen an antibody, on an image or even anybody who's looked at it on a microscope, you see it looks like a little Y. And what that does is that it attaches itself to any kind of foreign cell. And what it does is that it either neutralizes the cell, or once it attaches, it tags the cell that it has identified that it was created specifically for that type of antigen. And once it tags it, then the immune system knows exactly what to do to get rid of it because it's familiar with it, okay? But the body is all out of whack when it comes to eczema. So the objective is, how do you get these things back under control, and how to do so naturally? So that way you're not popping pills all the time and rubbing ointments and rubbing creams on your body forever and ever, okay? I'm going to give you some solutions, all right? So again, I'm looking at the time. All right, we're not too bad. I'm gonna go through another 20 minutes. But again, I explained a lot of what's going on. Then I'm gonna go into the causes, and then from the causes, we're gonna deal with some solutions. Okay, so let's move forward. Right, eczema, any superficial inflammatory process involving primarily the epidermis, marked early by redness, itching, minute papules and vesicles, which are the little bumps that raise up on the skin, weeping, oozing, and crusting, and later by scaling, lichenification, which is like the leathering of the skin, and often pigmentation when the skin starts to change color. It's a common allergic reaction in children, but it also occurs in adults, usually in a more severe form. Childhood eczema often begins in infancy, the rash appearing on the face, neck, and folds of elbows and knees. It may disappear by itself when an offending food is removed from the diet, or it may become more extensive, and in some cases cover the entire surface of the body. Severe eczema can be complicated by skin infections. This is why when you have skin infections based on eczema, they give you antibiotics, but they never tell you that once you come off of the antibiotics, that you also have to replenish the probiotics in your gastrointestinal tract, because those antibiotics kills them off as well. All right. Severe eczema can be complicated by skin infection. Childhood eczema may persist for several years or return after the child is older. A person suffering from childhood eczema may develop another allergic condition later, most often hay fever or asthma. I also had asthma, severe allergies, and eczema. All right, so I got the worst of the worst. All right, my siblings didn't. Okay, one of my siblings just had eczema but no asthma, but they had hay fever. Another one of my siblings did not have eczema, did not have asthma, but had severe allergies, hay fever, etc. Okay, but these things are interrelated. All right. Now here's an illustration of eczema. I'm not going to go into this too much, but we talked about the bacterial infections that happen, the weeping and oozing, the crusting, xerosis, which is the drying out of the skin, and redness that you see, inflammation. All of these things result in what we call eczema, atopic dermatitis. All right. So as you can see here, the allergens come in and they do all types of damage, and then the immune system responds aggressively and causes inflammation. All right. Right. Visual symptoms. This is very important. How can you identify that your child, you or somebody you know has eczema? Well, first, they're going to have dry and sensitive skin. Okay. Intense itching, red inflamed skin, recurrent rashes, scaly areas, rough leathery patches, oozing or crusting, areas of swelling, and dark colored patches of skin. I had all of these symptoms. All right. So if we look on here, you get to see the mild case, the moderate case, and the severe case. All right. So we see the redness severity, the papulation and bump severity. All right. The excoriation, injury due to scratching severity. When people start to scratch, you can start to see the redness, and they start to peel off layers of skin, and the lichenification. And that is when the skin gets very leathery, rough leathery patches on the skin. Okay. And that happens because of chronic scratching and chronic inflammation and chronic redness over time. All right. The skin starts to get very, very tough. All right. And all of these are symptoms that if you look at it, you can see that this child, me, or somebody I know has eczema. All right. Now, inflammation. We're going to get into this real quick. All right. And inflammation, we're going to deal with skin flora. We're going to explain what that is, deal with skin pH, and the high alkaline effects on health. Now, I'm not going to touch on that. I'm going to skip past that. But you can get something called alkalosis. So a lot of people tend to be like these gurus saying that, oh, you can fix any ailment by having 100% pure alkaline body. That is absolutely ridiculous. And that is absolutely false. Okay. So many processes in your body work at an acidic pH level. And if that acidic pH level is altered in any way, it can result in disease. It can result in the loss of function of that process, etc. Okay. So your body is not 100% alkaline, and therefore you should not have 100% alkaline diet. You should not have 100% alkaline diet. That is not recommended, because you need certain bases in order for the body to do what it does. But because a lot of us have a very acidic diet and we are in a very acidic environment, we suffer from acidosis. So when people suffer from acidosis, or when the body is highly more acidic than it's supposed to be in certain areas, such as your blood plasma or your blood pH, that can result in disease. Okay. Now, people who go to the doctor, when the doctor does any kind of blood tests on you, they always check for the pH of your blood. The pH of the blood should be at 7.35. All right. That's optimal. It shouldn't be 8, shouldn't be 9. It shouldn't be 7. It shouldn't be 6. It has to hit that optimum range. Otherwise, you can have, which can result in vomiting, respiratory alkalosis. You can have metabolic alkalosis. You can have, so many other things can occur where you start to have symptoms and you're like, man, I'm eating this alkaline diet and I'm trying to be alkaline with everything I do, but I'm getting sick. Well, that's because your body is not 100% alkaline. All right. And that's extremely important. So eating 100% alkaline diet is not going to cure eczema. Okay. You need to have 75% alkaline, 25% acidic. That is optimal. And you can start to look at the daily value percentage and break it down from there to see how many grams or ounces of something that you need to intake in order to maintain that balance. So I'm not going to go too much into that right now. But just note, you do not want to be highly acidic or highly alkaline. You want to ensure that your body maintains what it needs to maintain. So that way, the blood in your body can do what it needs to do. Whether it's the red blood cells, your white blood cells, the plasma, the platelets, the antibodies, anything that's in your body that is responsible for assisting whenever an issue occurs, you want to make sure that the body's maintaining its pH balance, its H plus balance, okay? And that's extremely important. But I'm going to skip that for this presentation. But when we do a follow-up presentation, I'm going to do another presentation. I'm going to touch on some of the things that I skipped over in this presentation, okay? But skin flora is very important, and skin pH is very important. Remember I told you, skin pH is acidic. Skin flora is the bacteria that reside on the surface of your skin, all right? So let's get into that. So the resident skin flora is the physiological skin flora, also known as colonizing flora. It comprises bacteria such as Staphylococcus epidermidis. And again, remember I told you the staph infection that you can get? This is one of them. There's various types of staph. This one in particular, it resides and lives on your skin, all right? Propioni and Corynebacteria, which do not have a pathogenic effect on the skin. The microorganisms have important functions. Their metabolism inhibits the growth of non-resident bacteria and fungi and maintain the balance between the colonizing microorganisms, which means, number one, these three things are on your skin. They are not there to harm you. They are living in community with you, right? They're communing with you, right? And their job is, number one, to ensure that there's no colonization of bad bacteria on your skin. And number two, they keep each other in check so that one doesn't over-colonize the other or take a monopoly over your skin. A good deal of this flora. Now, if you look over here on the picture to the right, you'll see where the flora typically resides in the skin. All right? So this is skin pore and sebaceous gland. So your sebaceous gland is the gland that's at the root of the hair follicle, and it oils the hair follicle. And that also has what's called antimicrobial peptides, which are designed to repel bacteria, okay? Then you have skin-rich and sebaceous glands, and it showed you where this is at, obviously, which is your chest, your groin area, your underarms, your armpits, parts of your scalp, your neck, etc. But the important thing is about 80% of the resident skin flora is on the surface of the stratum corneum, the outermost layer of the epidermis. Particularly high concentrations of microorganisms are found in the body regions rich in the sebaceous glands, e.g. scalp, forehead, axillae, front of the chest, and the area between the shoulder blades and the groin area. 20% of the resident microorganisms are found in the sebaceous glands, sebaceous glands. On non-intact skin, such as wounds, the microorganisms of the resident skin flora may trigger infections. Why? Because they're not supposed to be coming into the bloodstream, because the moment they do, it turns into an opportunistic infection. So the areas that's heavy in your sebaceous gland or your sweat glands or your hair, the hair glands that you have, your oil glands, and the sebaceous glands, which is at the root of the follicle of the hair, they produce sweat and they produce oil. And this is where these bacteria typically like to colonize at or aggregate at or congregate at. All right. So you're going to have a heavy concentration of them in those areas because these things live in those the follicles of your hair as well in those sweat glands. All right. So this is normal. But in people with eczema, it becomes bad because when your skin is leaky, these bacteria are constantly coming into the body, and now the body is creating this wave of defense against it. So anytime the body comes into contact with it, the body is going to overreact. Hence, it's going to start to give you the symptoms of eczema, okay? Because the body's starting to respond to something that should be normal, but it abnormally responds to it. So that's also very important, okay? Your skin pH. Natural skin pH is on average below 5, which is beneficial for its resident flora. Remember I told you, you have flora that's here in the body that needs to be there because they have important functions. When the pH of the skin, which is 5, it's much higher than 5 or much lower, Houston, we have a problem. Variable skin values are being reported in literature, all in the acidic range, but with the broad range from pH 4 to 7. In a multi-center study, we have assessed the skin surface pH of the volar forearm before and after refraining from showering and cosmetic product application for 24 hours. The average pH dropped from 5.12 to 4.93. On the base of this pH drop, it is estimated that the natural skin surface pH is on average 4.5, i.e. below 5. So your skin pH must be acidic. If it turns alkaline, then you're going to create an environment where the skin flora overpopulates, or you have other non-resident skin flora, foreigners that start to colonize on the skin and create issues. All right. And soaps as well, detergents can also affect the skin pH. All right. Keep that in mind. All right. Now, there's ways you can test the pH. You can get litmus paper. And with litmus paper, you can actually test out your detergents. You can test out the soaps that you use. You can test out the shampoos that you use, which is always good. Get some litmus paper. Take a little bit of whatever it is that you're applying on your body, on your clothes, and you want to make sure you put it in, soak it in some water, let it dissolve, put the litmus paper in there, and test the pH of that, because that pH can adversely affect the body. Okay, then they tell you all the time, oh, be careful for certain detergents and certain applications of lotions, and they're telling you this because it can affect the skin pH, and when the skin pH breaks down, guess what? It causes an opportunity for either cirrhosis of the skin to dry out, or for these bacteria to make its way into the leaky upper layers of your skin. All right. And I'm gonna skip on an alkaline diet, but if you have a highly alkaline diet, it can affect your skin pH level, okay? Which means that it can make you more susceptible for the breakdown of the stratum corneum of the skin, and it can overheighten the immune system, and it can decolonize the resident skin flora and cause all types of issues. Again, 100% alkaline diet is going to cause more issues than it's going to help you. Please keep that in mind. All right. All right. And I get into all of that here, but I'm going to skip that for now. So let's get into the causes. So what actually causes the symptoms and the breakdown and everything that in the mutations? What causes all of that? That's exactly what I want to share with you guys now. Now, being that we're limited on time, I'm not going to go in depth with each one of these things, but I will reveal them to you. I will read maybe a couple of sentences from each of the slides that touch on these things. And we're going to skip right to the solutions. All right. Let me just give me 1 second. Let me just pause for a second. If you guys can hear me, just hit 1. I'm just checking on the chat real quick. Hit 1 if you can hear me clearly. If you can see everything clearly, just hit 1. And if all else fails, you can just read the slide. All right. But just hit 1 if you can see me and hear me clearly. All right. Hit 1 if you can hear me. If you can see it clearly, hit 1 if you can hear and see clearly. All right. So let me get a few more ones and I'm going to keep going. All right. Don't forget to hit that thumbs up button if you like the information that you're hearing as well. All right. So let me get a few more ones and let's keep moving. Somebody says sometimes you go in and out. That's not good. That's not good. Let me see if I can adjust that. Hold on 1 second. Let me see if I can adjust that. I'm not trying to go in and out. Hold on for 1 second, family. Hold on for 1 second. All right, I'm back. So I made an adjustment. Let me fix that. So I made an adjustment. So I'm gonna take a quick timeout real quick, and then we're gonna get into it a little bit more. If the information is helpful and you're enjoying what it is that you're hearing, please hit 2. I'm gonna summarize everything towards the end, and I'm gonna break it down a little bit more. Hopefully, it's just not too overwhelming. The information is not too overwhelming. But again, I'm gonna summarize it at the end once I tell you the causes, give you the solutions, and then at the end, I'm gonna summarize everything and I'm gonna open up for question and answers. So if you've written anything down that you need more clarification on, definitely let me know. All right. So again, hit 2 if you enjoy this. Again, like I said, you can share this link if you want, and bring people in so they can see it while it's still available. Okay. But since I see a couple of twos in here, should see a little bit more twos in here. Should be a little bit more people in here. Let me know if the audio and video is doing okay now. All right. So hit 1 for the audio video and hit 2 if you're enjoying it. All right. Also, let me know if you're following along okay as well. I need to make sure you're following along okay as well. Now also remember, anytime you put anything on the skin, you just want to make sure that it's not killing the resident skin flora. And you want to make sure that the pH of what it is you're applying is not too alkaline, because that can also, aggravate the disease, right? Or the condition known as eczema. All right. So keep that in mind as well. All right. Okay. So let's get back to this. Hopefully it doesn't skip anymore. I made a quick change to try and address that. Let's get to the second half of the presentation so we can get to the Q&A. All right, so let's get into it. All right. So what are the causes? All right. What actually causes this to happen? All right. Let's get into that as well. Like I said, you guys can share this link as well. For those of you who want to donate, you could do it directly through the channel via the super chat option, or you can look in the description and you can always donate there to Kingdom Harbinger Ministries. And again, everything that you donate goes towards this research and development that we do for us to get the information that we need and the development that needs to be done in order to give you the implementation of these solutions to address this issue. Okay, so let's go ahead. Let's get finished. Okay, and hopefully, again, I know a lot of people who are watching as well. You may make your own natural products for eczema, dermatitis, or whatever. It's very, very important that you understand what it is that I'm saying to you. Okay, because your products must also be pH balanced. Okay, and you have to understand what each ingredient does. What does each ingredient do? If you don't understand what each ingredient does, you don't know the pH of each ingredient, then you're going to be causing more harm than good. Okay. So please do your research. Keep these things in mind before you apply. Okay. Or before you create a product and then give it to somebody and it either doesn't work, it either aggravates the situation, or it may have some positive effects, but you may not know why. You know what's happening. Hey, look, it's working, but why is it working? What is each one of these ingredients doing to the body that's causing it to seem like it's working? Again, you cannot treat this simply from topical treatments. It has to be worked from the inside out. Okay, keep that in mind. That's very, very important. All right. All right. So, all right. So I see somebody said they tried everything in the book and nothing works. All right. Well, hopefully these solutions will. But look at the causes, family. Keep the causes in mind. All right. I'm gonna try to keep my eye on the chat while I'm doing this. All right. So the causes. What's one of the causes? External. Remember I told you external, internal. External cause. Compromised epidermal functions. Now, all the functions that I went over with you guys earlier, that again, if you go back and watch the video, if you didn't catch it the first time, you'll see the slides. You can read the slides and it'll give you that information. So what happens is there's compromises within the epidermal functions of the skin. And when those compromises happens, everything else starts to freak out and break down. All right. Staph infections. Okay. So the staph that we just mentioned earlier, that's part of the skin flora, when that staph gets out of control, which it does in people who normally have atopic dermatitis or eczema, they start to colonize very heavily, more than they need to. And then what happens is they start to enter into the breaks of the skin and start to cause all types of damage. They are opportunistic, what they call opportunistic infections. You typically hear that and people who have HIV or AIDS, typically not HIV, but when they get to the point of AIDS, what happens is they're killed by opportunistic infections. So a lot of these bacteria and viruses already live in our bodies. And even people who are healthy have bacteria and they have viruses that live in their body. Here's an example. Those of you who've had the chicken pox, you have a form of herpes that lives in your body. Later on in life, as your immune system is compromised or starts to degrade or dwindle as you get older, it can turn into what's called shingles. Okay, shingles is the herpes virus that was once chickenpox, now is manifesting into something else because now the body can no longer keep it under control, and now it just goes crazy. So anybody that you know that has shingles, they had at one time chickenpox, and that herpes virus is various type of HSV viruses is living in their body. Okay, so just keep that in mind. Also, herpes viruses, whether you have HSV1, HSV2, those are the ones that we commonly are aware of, right? One, it causes lesions on the lips. The other causes lesions in the genital areas. Those also can aggravate the skin for people who have eczema. Now, some people who may not have eczema, they may have mild breakouts and not even be aware of it because the body is the skin is normal and is able to take care of it. But people who have eczema, whenever they have any type of herpes infection, it will be very heightened and very noticeable because the skin is already having issues at the surface layer, and the herpes virus, and the reason why it's called herpes because it's creeping. It either lives in the cluster of nerve cells in the sac area near your spinal cord, and that's where HSV2 lives. And that's genital herpes. And then the typical type of herpes, they actually dwell in the nerve cluster behind or underneath the ear. Okay. And then whenever there's a traumatic attack on the body or the body's immune compromised, then or let's say the homeostasis of the body's out of whack, then that virus then makes its way to the surface and the virions start to reproduce, and it causes these lesions that you start to see. All right. So you start to see it more with people who have eczema or any type of issues with the skin because the skin is already compromised. All right. And again, the staph is typically friendly, but whenever the skin is leaky, it gets in and causes damage. Okay. Now, internal, which we have to focus on as well. Irregular immune response. Now, remember I told you that the T cells, they activate the plasma cells or the B cells, and they activate the B cells and tell the B cells produce this type of antibody because this lingering cell who sampled the protein surface of one of these enemy cells told me that this was the enemy. So now I want you to create an antibody to stick to this enemy when you encounter it so we can tag it and bag it. All right. So what happens is the immune system starts telling the B cells, the T cells are telling the B cells, hey, produce IgE, which is the wrong antibody. And then what the B cells then do is either they equip themselves with the antibodies attached to them as they're going throughout your body looking for enemies, or they release those antibodies, and those antibodies are then picked up by mast cells and other cells, and then they're sensitized or they're informed of the enemy. So when they cross-link with the enemy or come into contact with the enemy, then they wreak all types of damage. Okay, so IgE is an abnormal immune response to these antigens that are coming into the body. And if the T cells are producing IgE and telling the B cells to produce it, and they become memory cells as well, as long as they live, now what's going to tend to happen is that the body is always going to be sensitized anytime it comes into contact with these foreign bodies. So you must stabilize the T cells and ensure that the T cells are only activated as Th1 cells when they need to be, as Th2 cells when they need to be, and as TC cells or cytotoxic T cells when they need to be. So you have to ensure that the T cells have the right information or in the right environment so they can do the appropriate job. And when these other cells that are living in your body, T cells and B cells and antibodies living in your body, when they die off and the rest of your T cells that are in the lymph nodes developing, B cells that's in the lymph nodes developing, they start performing and doing the right thing, then you won't have an excess of these antibodies that's going throughout your body that's freaking out every time it comes into contact with an enemy, which it was designed for. So the objective is control the immune system, stabilize the immune system, make sure that it's not unnecessarily producing antibodies that do not need to be there. And when the wrong interleukins, which is proteins, signaling proteins that go from one cell to another, and it tells another cell what to do, you have cytokines and chemokines, all right? And these are various proteins that communicate back and forth between various cells and tells each cell by a neighboring cell what to do. So for example, if you get infected by a virus and the body itself understands that it's been affected by a virus, you want the body to produce a particular type of helper T cells that's going to produce interleukins or tumor necrosis factor and interferons designed to neutralize the virus and tell it, hey, look, this is what you need to do so that way we can keep this thing on the wraps. If the body produces the wrong helper T cell, then what happens is the virus starts to get out of control and it can kill the person. And that's typically what happens when a body's overwhelmed in a short period of time from being infected. Staph infections can also do the same thing. It can cause a lot of damage if the body is not operating functionally. So when the immune system is compromised, then you're going to have eczema, okay? And then, well, not just eczema, you can have allergies as well. You can have an allergic reaction that is not an eczema reaction or atopic dermatitis. Again, they work hand in hand. You can have asthma. Asthma is the mucosal layer of the body, membranes of the body, that is acting as if it's the part of the skin, because again, it comes into contact with the outside world. When you inhale things, it touches these mucous membranes all the time, and it has the same reaction that the body has when it's predisposed with eczema. So please keep that in mind. We want to stabilize our T cells, our B cells, our Langerhans cells, which is our dendritic cells, our mast cells, our neutrophils, our macrophages. All right, you have several more other white blood cells than that, but we want to make sure that everybody is working properly, they're communicating effectively, and they're not aggressive. Okay, so if you're not controlling or stabilizing the immune system internally, doesn't matter what you put on the outside. Even if you repair the skin barrier, which is one of the goals of these solutions, you still have a type 1 hypersensitivity with regards to the immune system. You must stabilize that as well. And the reason why you must is because if you have a break in the skin from scratching, an injury, or whatever, and you have some staph getting in, you have some ragweed, pollen, whatever getting in, the body's also going to produce the same type of response, even though the skin barrier is fixed. So you must stabilize the immune system as well. You have to fix the epidermal layer of the skin, and you got to stabilize the immune system. Those are the two major things that you must do. Otherwise, it's going to be a cycle where one will impact the other, and the other will impact the first one will impact the second one, and it's a continuous cycle. So you must break the cycle. And the solutions that I give you help you to break the cycle, okay? Synthetic breast milk or formula. You see this, family? Synthetic breast milk or formula is one of the root causes that causes the immune system to freak out. And not only causes the immune system to freak out, when the immune system is compromised, it starts to affect the other organs of the body, and your skin is the largest organ of the body. Synthetic breast milk or formula. Anybody that is pregnant and you're about to have a child, or you just had a child, you have an opportunity to help that child or prevent that child from having chronic eczema. Now, they may have a form of it as they're a child or growing up or so forth. And eczema is believed to be what's called a passive. Listen to this. This is how they say it's a passive vaccination. What that means is that a vaccination is designed to give you activated or inactive virions or bacteria, either a different strain that's similar or causes the same reaction but is weakened, or the dead state of the actual virus or bacteria. And what it does is supposed to actually get your body to recognize it, transfer that information to T and B cells, and wage a preemptive attack when they're coming into contact with this virus or bacteria. What winds up happening is when you have skin that is leaky, it allows certain bacteria to come in. And when that bacteria comes in, the body then launches warfare against it. Now, under normal circumstances, when the skin itself is leaky and it allows some of these bacteria to come on in, it's a setup for the bacteria so the body can, adapt to it and it can respond to it under normal circumstances. But over time, further mutations in regards to this passive vaccination system that the body is creating occurs when the immune system starts producing the wrong response. And now you have a situation where atopic dermatitis occurs. So they said that the reason why people developed, or this mutation occurred in the skin and in the immune system, is a way in certain environments where certain bacteria, the body's not really exposed to a lot of bacteria because of the environment. It could be a cold environment. It creates what's called a passive vaccination system, in which it causes the skin to be slightly compromised to allow any bacteria in the area to come into the body, so the body can then prep itself and sensitize itself to attack it in the future. But now, because of human migrations and people who coming out of certain gene pools, or isolation of genes, or now, mating with one another and producing children and now moving to different regions, now you get a lot of different issues in which you have somebody who body, actually evolve, on a micro evolution level to passively immunize itself in a cold environment. Now that person has offspring and now they live in a warm environment where there's hordes of not only bacteria, but ragweed, pollen, and all types of other irritants. And not only that, synthetic things we expose the body to, such as lotions and shampoos and detergents and soaps, etc. All right. It's a very deep and in-depth study, this particular disease. And I'm just touching the surface for you guys so you guys can understand what is actually going on. But synthetic breast milk formula, which I'm going to show you in a scientific article, can predispose you for eczema. So I don't know how many of y'all have been naturally breastfed or how many of y'all were put on formula. For me, I was breastfed for a couple of months and then I was weaned off of it because my mother had to go back to work. So the doctor suggested her to give me synthetic breast milk. The parent should have the child on breast milk no shorter than 6 months. Optimally, you breastfeed the child until the child naturally weans away, which should happen at the age of 2, which means if you can continue to promote breast milk, which is various ways to do so, continue to pump. Let's say the child grows teeth and they're biting and so forth, you still must stimulate the mammary gland so that way you can keep producing breast milk, because again, this gives your child a fighting chance for a numerous amount of things that's out there, because a lot of things, the immune system of the child is passed on from the mother. If the mother's sick, the mother has, is immune compromised, it will also pass on to the child. And if the child does not get the colostrum from the mother, which is the yellowy fluid, within the first 3 months, 2 weeks to 3 months being breastfed, then you're definitely going to have a lot of issues in life. Okay. So synthetic breast milk has actually agitated the skin and immune system, more particularly the adaptive immune system, and it forces it to freak out because it's not getting the proper signaling proteins in order to know how to normally operate. And that causes an issue. That's very, very important. Okay. So if you're future mothers if you're a mother to be, if you plan to be a future mother, if you have a child now that you're breastfeeding, please continue to breastfeed, plan on breastfeeding. If for whatever reason your body stops producing breast milk, there's various suggestions that I would be more than happy to give to you so you can continue to produce breast milk. But as long as your child has 6 months of continuous breast milk, they should have a fighting chance. All right. Anything premature to that can cause issues, especially if they're given synthetic breast milk that has various ingredients. I mean, there's so many synthetic ingredients in breast milk. It forces the body to react. Now look at this, and I'll say this and I'll move forward. When you are vaccinated, it is not the virus, the dead virus or the dead bacteria or the weakened bacteria that actually causes you to get sick. I mean, that's one factor, but it's not that. It's the adjuvants. The adjuvants are things like formalin, formaldehyde, and other ingredients that are designed to jumpstart the immune system in the event the immune system does not identify the infection. All right. And when that occurs, then now we have a situation where the immune system does not know how to launch a normal defense because it is not receiving this information from the breast milk from the mother. So if you can withhold your child from synthetic breast milk, please do so. All right. If you're unable to, for whatever reason, just pay attention to everything else that I share on here. And if your child does develop eczema, then we can see what we can do to solve the issue. All right. Vaccinations can also compromise the immune system and predispose the person for eczema. I'm going to show you the scientific articles that validates what I'm saying to you. So synthetic breast milk, vaccinations can predispose the child's immune system to weaken it, compromise it, or whatever the case may be, or aggravate it. And now when the child starts to encounter any kind of antigens, allergens, antigens, whatever the case may be, now the immune system does not know how to properly respond to it. All right. So please keep this in mind, family. Please keep this in mind. Please be very, very, very important. Like I said, this is for educational purposes only. If you want to consult with your physician over that, that's fine. But all I'm saying is certain things happen when the child is not only born, but as a fetus in the mother. It can also be predisposed. If the mother's diet is out of whack, okay, if the mother is sick, if the mother has certain infections and so forth, a lot of those things can also affect the child. All right. So we'll keep moving. It's extremely important in identifying the cause of eczema is vitamin D deficiency. Vitamin D is responsible for the proliferation and differentiation of cells. Well, what does that mean? Proliferation is when cells expand and multiply. Differentiation is when a cell has one function and then later on in its life cycle, it then takes on a different function. Now, this happens, we see this with stem cells, right? As stem cells starts to colonize in certain areas of the body and produce organs and so forth. But with your skin cells die every day, every minute, every hour, every day. Your skin cells continuously proliferate, and your skin cells always differentiate as it makes its way from those lower stratums or lower layers to the outer layers, which is the stratum corneum. They always differentiate. So if you are vitamin D deficient, which most people who are melanated in America, because they have been displaced from their natural environment, if you are vitamin D deficient, then guess what? You are already nullifying your immune system, whether it's the skin or the blood itself, from stabilizing itself and from protecting itself against any kind of diseases. So when the mother is vitamin D deficient, that predisposes the child for eczema, allergies, and asthma. If the child is growing up, and now one thing you get also, you can get vitamin D safe drops for children as well. Children should also always, if they have eczema, they must get their daily value anywhere from 2,000 IUs, which is basic, right, for adults, to 4,000 if they are actually, in a state where they're sick and they need it. But for children, you can cut that in half, or you can again consult with your physician, and it'll tell you, depending upon the weight of the child, the size of the child, everything else, what the DV is for their vitamin D dose. If the mother is vitamin D deficient, it will predispose the child for a lot of different diseases. Matter of fact, vitamin D is not even a vitamin at all. It's actually a hormone, okay? Your skin can produce it. Well, it doesn't produce it. Your skin actually is a precursor for it. And then it sends those precursor activities to the liver, which then the liver, does the rest of the work, and then it, okay? Now, you can get it either from going in the sun, all right, or you can get various forms of vitamin D from other sources like plant sources, or you can get it from cod liver oil and things of that nature, all right? And that your cod liver oil also gives you your omega-3, 6, and 9. But look at these things. When the immune system is irregular, when the child is given synthetic breast milk or formula, when and weaned off the breast milk too early, or does not get breast milk at all, when the child is then vaccinated, or when we get vaccinated, and when there's a vitamin D sufficiency, all of these things contribute to predisposing somebody to then later on in life have eczema, right? Because the skin cells can mutate while the fetus is in the body of the mother, if the fetus is not getting all the nutrients that it needs, or when the child is born and the child is, being breastfed, it can also be predisposed for eczema if it's vitamin D deficient, if the child of fetus have received vaccinations, getting synthetic breast milk, because then all of these things can predispose the immune system to not operate as functional as it needs to, and the vitamin D deficiency can affect the proliferation and differentiation of the cells in the skin. All right. So I'm gonna go through these things real quick. So remember, I mentioned filaggrin to you. Filaggrin, again, in layman's terms, is the mortar between the bricks. The bricks is the keratinocytes. The mortar is the filaggrin. The filaggrin is designed to keep these cells packed closely together. What happens is there's a mutation, right, on the FLG gene. And when the FLG gene is mutated, it affects the function of the profilaggrin that then turns into the filaggrin that then turns into natural moisturizing factors, okay? So I'm just going to read for you the summary. And I'm going to skip all the rest of this, but I'm going to read for you the summary because you have to understand. Filaggrin is when that is mutated, affected, loss of function, no function, you're going to more than likely develop eczema, okay? And they can do tests on you to see what your filaggrin levels are, okay? And which filaggrin genes you actually have that's been affected. So in the summary, it says, recently, loss of function mutations in the FLG, the human gene encoding profilaggrin and filaggrin, have been identified as the cause of the common skin condition, ichthyosis vulgaris. Now, you probably see people with this, and these people that have these, that look really weird because their skin is looks very shiny, and that's because they have no filaggrin in their body. Not only no or a very minute amount of filaggrin, and that results in the symptoms that you see on their skin. Those I feel really bad for those people, because if you think your eczema is bad, they have it 10 times worse, okay? So it says these mutations, which are carried by up to 10% of people, also represent a strong genetic predisposing factor for atopic eczema, asthma, and allergies. Profilaggrin is the major component of the keratohyalin granules within epidermal granular cells. During epidermal terminal differentiation, terminal, when something terminates, differentiation means it stops having one function and then it functions into something else. These things take place, and it says the negative 400 kDa filaggrin polyprotein is dephosphorylated and rapidly cleaved by serine proteases. And we're going to look into the serine proteases and see what the serine proteases as well, because when that activity increases, it makes the skin, it starts to break down a lot of the enzymes that's working in the skin, and also makes the skin alkaline. All right. And again, proteases, anything that you see as a protease is an enzyme that uses proteins such as amino acids or things of that nature. Okay. From its monomeric filaggrin, 37 kD, which binds to and condenses the keratin cytoskeleton and thereby contributes to the cell compaction process. Remember, I told you the squamous process where the cells collapse and it turns into a cornified cell envelope where it flattens out before it flakes off the skin. This is a normal process, right? But the filaggrin has a role all throughout these processes. And when this filaggrin is mutated and you have loss of function or no functionality, then you're going to have issues, okay? Cell compaction process that is required for squamine biogenesis. Within the squamines, filaggrin is citrulinated, which promotes its unfolding and further degradation into hygroscopic amino acids, which constitute one element of natural moisturizing factors. Loss of profilaggrin or filaggrin leads to a poorly formed stratum corneum, which is also prone to a reduction or complete loss of filaggrin expression leads to enhanced percutaneous transfer of allergens, allows allergens to get past the outer layer of the skin into the body. Filaggrin is therefore in the front line of defense and protects the body from the entry of foreign environmental substances that can otherwise trigger aberrant immune responses. All right. So I'm going to read the conclusion here. Overall, the emergence of FLG as a major predisposing gene for atopic disease has resulted in a major paradigm shift in dermatology and allergy research. Family, a lot of tenured dermatologists have not been exposed to a lot of this recent research that's went over the past 15, 20 years. So if you have a dermatologist that's been practicing for 30 years or whatever, he may not be aware of these new recent studies unless he's actually really researching and studying, or he may be going based off of archaic information and data that he utilized when he was getting his MD, all right? And because a lot of older dermatologists are not aware of this, their treatment approaches do not address the filaggrin issue, okay? It has refocused attention on the role of the skin barrier in eczema pathogenesis, and indeed has given new insights into pathways that lead to asthma in conjunction with eczema. Collectively, the results described here give fresh impetus to the search for further understanding of the role of filaggrin and other structurally related proteins in epidermal differentiation, and skin barrier function. It is also hoped that an increased understanding of filaggrin biochemistry will facilitate the development of novel therapeutic approaches, for example, enhancing expression of filaggrin and other barrier components in the epidermis, and identify novel drug targets for these extremely common diseases. Now, and one of the solutions that I have in it, mind you, I did years and years of research on this, family, years of research. I actually found an item that can allow the filaggrin to be further expressed, because the filaggrin is in a digressive state, right, where it's not functioning properly because it's been mutated, injury, or something happened to the gene expression. But now we have an item that can force the filaggrin to express itself. And once the filaggrin takes its place and does its role effectively, the outer layer of the skin starts to repair itself, and the symptoms start to dissipate. And now, once you're able to address the outer layer of the skin issue, now you can hone in and focus on stabilizing these white blood cells. And once you stabilize the white blood cells to ensure that the white blood cells are in its optimal range of functionality and it's not being over aggressive or producing the wrong antibodies, or you have the wrong TH helper cells that's being activated, now you can dissipate this disease called atopic dermatitis or eczema. Okay? This is extremely important, because if somebody is giving you a product that is not allowing the filaggrin gene to be expressed, if you went to the doctor and they show that you have loss of function or that you have a deficient expression of filaggrin, then guess what? Your eczema will continuously come back. And all that topical solution is doing is just covering up something. It's just patching it up like a Band-Aid. It's not getting rid of anything. Okay? And again, the body is further perturbed when you scratch, okay, because you're itching, when there's inflammation, etc. Okay? This is important. And I had to dig and dig and dig for years until I found articles that spoke about filaggrin. I didn't even know this was an issue. I discovered it by accident in researching, and I realized, whoa, this thing has a central role that if it's not doing its job, everything else breaks down. You have a loss of function of your AMPs, your antimicrobial peptides. The serine proteases starts to increase because it is not being stabilized, because it starts to then cut more proteins than what it should, and turns those proteins that is cutting and breaks those proteins down. And when the proteins are broken down, they can't function like they're supposed to, which means that a serine proteases, which is cutting the amino acid serine, and that is adversely affecting any protein, such as filaggrin, which is a protein. It is cutting down the protein into peptides. And what it's doing is it's minimizing the functionality of that protein that's operating in the skin. So when the filaggrin breaks down, it causes serine proteases to increase. And when these proteases increase, not only do they cut more proteins in the skin into smaller peptides and then nullifies its effect, it's also increasing the alkalinity of the skin, and therefore you have a huge colonization of bacteria that's on the surface that then becomes opportunistic, and it infiltrates the skin and it causes further issues. Okay, but this is the root cause, one of the root causes of eczema, right? As far as the skin is concerned, when you fix the filaggrin problem, the eczema, as far as the outer issues, perturbations in the skin and issues of the skin, it goes away over time. You must fix the filaggrin issue. There's so many different ways that you can approach it, but I give you some solutions. And what we do, we create a regimen customized for you, and we monitor you over 60 to 90 days, depending on the severity of your eczema. And again, we never tell you to not go to the doctor, because you must go to a dermatologist to confirm that the educational information that we're giving you is producing and yielding results. And then over a course of 60 to 90 days, we monitor you. We do a follow-up at the end of the month in 30-day increments, and we check in to make sure that your condition is going away. And that's what we do at Natural Path to Eden, okay? If you guys want our services after we show you this information, all right? So how we doing on time? All right, got about 15 more minutes. All right, so let me go through it. So remember, this is very, very important. As you can see to the right, the persistence of atopic dermatitis and filaggrin mutation in a U.S. longitudinal cohort, right? The abstract in the background is atopic dermatitis is a common skin disease that is characterized by recurrent episodes of itching. Filaggrin loss of function mutations, FLG-NO, have been associated with an increased risk of developing AD. The objective to evaluate the effect of individual FLG-NO mutations on the presence of AD over time. They show you the methods, the results is there, and the conclusion is in a U.S. cohort with AD, FLG-NO mutations were common. Children with FLG-NO mutations were more likely to have persistent AD. Although these mutations were more common in those of European ancestry, their effect on persistence was similar in those of African ancestry. Response to therapy was not uniform among children with FLG-NO mutations. So I'm going to tell you a safe way in order to assist your child. These service that we offer, this information, is typically not suggested for children that are infants and that are toddlers. This is mostly suggested to children who have a more developed immune system that can truly respond appropriately to the applications, whether it's internal or external, that we suggest, okay? And again, like I said, if y'all want, it is recommended to go and run it by your dermatologist if you like. But we're going to show you how you can get this thing on the wraps, and there's certain things that can assist with that, okay? But filaggrin is at the root cause of eczema, right? So this document here, it just goes into, more into eczema. What I want to read is the last two paragraphs on the right. The role of filaggrin in atopic dermatitis, given our current understanding of the SC, stratum corneum barrier defects in AD, atopic dermatitis, and the association between FLG gene mutations in AD, it seems that a deficiency of filaggrin may be the unifying common denominator to explain the SC barrier insufficiency seen in atopic dermatitis. The stratum corneum barrier defects associated with filaggrin deficiency in atopic dermatitis include diminished stratum corneum barrier strength and integrity, increase percutaneous absorption, which means it allows these outer elements to come into the body, increase dehydration, okay? And when that dehydration increases, you don't have the natural moisturizing factor function of the filaggrin to actually moisturize the body, increase alkaline skin pH, which again is a detriment to your health, decrease buffering capacity, and one of those buffers is oils that's produced by the hair, sweat from the glands, and AMPs, antimicrobial peptides. Increase SC protease activity, which we identified as serine proteases, right? It cuts the serine, it uses amino acids to cut down proteins into smaller peptides, and decrease antimicrobial function. So when filaggrin is out of whack, everything else in the skin breaks down. A deficiency in filaggrin leads to a reduction in the stratum corneum hydration as the production of filaggrin-generated MNFs is decreased. Insufficiencies in filaggrin also change the pH and buffering capacity of the skin. These structural and functional changes to the epidermis lead to many downstream alterations in skin function and health. As important as filaggrin is to skin health and as strong as its genetic association to aging may be, lack of filaggrin due to genetic mutation is not the sole pathogenic factor that can explain the entire pathophysiology of AD, which is far more complex. And they are absolutely correct. There's about almost 100 different functions that you have to keep in mind that breaks down when you have an issue with atopic dermatitis. What I'm honing in on is the core main ones, right? And when you get those in shape, everything else will fall into place. But this is an extremely complex disease if you're unable to identify the core elements that are responsible for the root causes of the pathogenesis of eczema. And I have identified these core elements and I'm educating you on them. All right, so we know filaggrin is one of the culprits, okay? Now, just so you can get an image of what it looks like, up here you have an environmental irritant or allergen, right? If filaggrin doesn't work, irritants get in, which you see this black piece gets in. Keratinocytes produce cytokines. Remember, cytokines are proteins, signals that are sent from one cell to another, and it's designed to tell another cell what to do because something is going on. And what these keratinocytes, they produce these cytokines which alert white blood cells to come to the site of injury. You have inflammatory and immune cells come to respond to the cytokines. All right. Now, you have your innate immune system, which is your macrophages, your neutrophils, and other cells, right? Your mast cells, and then you also have your adaptive immune system, which is your T cells and B cells, which also get involved. Which also gets involved in this process. They produce more cytokines and antibodies, causing symptoms of eczema. These cytokines is the interleukin numbers, which I'm going to show you, that actually aggravate the actual disease, and the antibodies, which is the IgE, which it produces, that also aggravates the disease by abnormally sensitizing other white blood cells, such as mast cells, to overreact when it comes back into contact with the irritant or allergen, right? And then this cycle just repeats itself. It goes on and on and on. And all right, so the filaggrin, again, when it's not functioning, everything else breaks down, right? Now, ceramides, I'm just going to read for you just briefly so you know what ceramides are, all right? Ceramides and cholesterol composition of the skin of patients with atopic dermatitis. Atopic dermatitis, skin tends to be easily irritated and appears dry. These clinical peculiarities correspond to impaired barrier function and to increased transepidermal water loss. That means water loss that occurs across various layers of the skin. A few studies suggest that a reduced amount of total ceramides, especially of ceramide 1. Again, when you go and you get any kind of lotion for eczema, if you look on the back, it may say ceramide 1, ceramide 3, ceramide NP. These are different types of ceramides that you're being provided with because the body itself is not producing it like it should. So all the lotion is doing is assisting the body by performing a ceramide function and cholesterol functionality so that the skin is not dry and the body is not drawing attention to the dry skin and then signals the arm to the hand to the nails to scratch. All right. So, is responsible for functional abnormalities of the skin of atopic dermatitis patients. The aim of this study was to analyze the relationship between epidermal lipids and barrier impairment in the skin of patients with atopic dermatitis. The quantity of ceramides, cholesterol sulfate, and free cholesterol of 47 patients with atopic dermatitis and 20 age and sex-matched healthy subjects were assessed by cyanide chelate stripping and thin layer chromatography. These are just different ways that they take parts of the skin off and analyze it. All right. So it goes on to say that transepidermal water loss were recorded at the same rate as the lipid sample in patients with atopic dermatitis. The levels of ceramide 1 and 3 were significantly lower, and values of cholesterol significantly higher with respect to healthy subjects, which means there was an imbalance of ceramide to cholesterol. So when there's an imbalance of the two, you will then have xerosis. It can then help to aggravate your eczema reactions, etc., etc. Okay. Now it says here, it suggests that ceramides may be involved in modulating local immune functions. Thus, modifications in ceramide profiles are not only linked to disturbances in the differentiation of keratinocytes, which are responsible for the functional alterations of atopic dermatitis skin, may also be responsible for the amplification of the inflammatory response to environmental stimuli. Because when you have an imbalance of ceramide to cholesterol, now what happens is the body is not being able to moisturize itself, lock in water, and prevent water loss, etc., which then opens up the door for these irritants to get in and for the body to overreact. So if you have a degradation of ceramides in the body and you have a higher increase of cholesterol, now you have an issue. When the filaggrin is not transforming into its, it also contributes to this issue as well. So keep in mind, a lot of times the reason why when you get these lotions, they have synthetic or even natural derived forms of ceramides, because whoever's putting this product together understands that people with eczema, they have a low production rate of ceramides. All right. And this is why you see it actually in, matter of fact, go back, grab anybody with Aveeno, right, which is one of the best products for masking the symptoms of eczema. It doesn't cure anything. It just masks the symptoms. It does several things. It uses sativa, or it uses colloidal oatmeal as artificial filaggrin. And what that does is it penetrates between the cells, the carotenoid site cells and the corneum site cells, and it holds the cells together. And then it provides a layer of ceramide where it moisturizes the skin. So it prevents dryness, and it also pulls the skin cells together, or adds an artificial glue to prevent irritants from coming in. This is why when I had eczema, I was using Aveeno products and it was working so well, but it never fixed the problem. But when I started to study, I understood why it was working. Okay. And there's other ingredients in there too that does other things as well to hydrate the skin and things of that nature. But when I understood these smaller elements in the ingredients, I understood how each ingredient functioned. So now I'm like, okay, well, can we get these things from natural things in the environment? Now, mind you, you can get natural colloidal oatmeal, right? And you can get ceramides from natural sources. You can get what's called phytoceramides from plant sources. And these things also can induce the expression of both filaggrin and ceramides, and or help to replace the loss of ceramides or filaggrin that you actually have there in your body. So the colloidal oatmeal will do it from the outside, and the phytoceramides, when you take them, will do it from the inside. All right. So let's move forward. All right. And here's more information on the ceramide function, how it functions in the stratum corneum, and how it can also cause the pathogenesis of atopic dermatitis. Remember, it's multiple things that contribute to this. All right. Now, here's an example so you can see of normal skin with normal ceramide levels, right? Allergenic and non-allergenic stimuli, nothing comes to the skin and it's able to affect the skin because the skin is dry and things are able to get through it. You have a normal ceramide level, which buffers bacteria and viruses. Then you have your sebaceous gland right here, which is, it helps to oil the hair follicle, right? And it also has AMPs in it to also continuously buffer out bacteria and viruses. And then water, which is necessary to keep these things hydrated, does not come out, okay? Now, when you have dry skin because you have a decreased ceramide level, allergenic and non-allergenic stimuli comes all the way in, you have a decreased ceramide levels, bacteria and viruses come in, water comes out, and then you have an issue. And the AMP, which comes from your oil glands of your hair follicles, they also produce less AMPs, and there's no buffers against anything that tries to attack the body, all right? So the sebaceous layer is here, derived from the sebaceous glands, which is right here. The ceramides is right underneath that, because this right here keeps your skin, produces natural oils for your skin. So if you have issues with the production of oils from your sebaceous glands, this can also add an issue where the body is not able to buffer any kind of allergens from coming in. Keratin is here as well, as keratinocytes and amino acids, along with the filaggrin, act as natural moisturizing factors, and the filaggrin also holds the keratinocytes together like mortar does to the bricks, okay? So we go into other things such as serine proteases, and the serine protease is an increased activity, enzymatic activity, which starts to cut proteins into smaller peptides. And when that happens, it affects the functionality of those proteins in the upper layer of the skin. So I'm not going to read all of this, but I'll read a little bit here on the right from the conclusion. The epidermal barrier describes a collection of diverse functions, the majority of which occur within the stratum corneum and include modulation of permeability and water balance, antimicrobial defense, immunological defense response, antioxidant reserve, and inherent protection, which is protecting you from photons from the light from UV. In AD, innate impairments of the structural and functional integrity of the SC, such as decreased filaggrin, increased SB activity, and altered lipid ratios that we didn't see as far as the cholesterol and the ceramides, right? They're out of balance. Predispose the patient an exacerbation of xerotic and eczematous skin changes. However, any of the mentioned epidermal dysfunctions alone are not solely responsible for the cascade of epidermal changes or the clinical manifestations of AD. Many of these structural and functional SC barrier abnormalities have been shown to exist both during and in between AD flares. However, the net effects of a combination of these epidermal impairments are a reduced ability of the SC and atopic skin to self-repair when challenged by exogenous insults, that means things from the outside coming in, leading to prolonged signaling of inflammatory cascades. These cascades are initially set in motion for reparative changes, but instead lead to further impairment of skin functions and exacerbation of AD as they continue unchecked and amplified abnormalities with the skin that eventually become visible by means of xerosis, water loss, eczematis, dermatitis. We saw I showed you the issues earlier, or excuse me, the symptoms earlier of eczema, and hypokeratosis, which means now you have a proliferation of keratinocyte cells, and then again that can also result in psoriasis, okay, when those cells are not properly dispersed by the skin. Right now, staph infections I mentioned earlier. So Staphylococcus aureus is a gram-positive round-shaped bacterium that is a member of the Firmicutes and is frequently found in the nose, respiratory tract, and on the skin. It is often positive for catalase and nitrate reduction and is a facultative anaerobe, which means that it can function without, in an environment that's not rich in oxygen, okay? That can grow without the need for oxygen. Although S. aureus is not always pathogenic, it is a common cause of skin infections such as skin abscess, respiratory infections such as sinusitis. So some people also have sinusitis, which again is the inflammation of the sinuses, okay? And food poisoning, all right? And this is what we typically know for S. aureus is food poisoning. You know what I'm saying? Like if you're not cooking things properly, then you can get staph infections. Well, if you have eczema, you can constantly get these staph infections as well. And if you have allergies that are really bad or asthma, you can also get these staph infections as well. Pathogenic strains often promote infections by producing virulence factors such as potent protein toxins and the expression of cell surface proteins that bind and inactivate antibodies. The emergence of antibiotic-resistant strains of S. aureus such as methicillin-resistant S. aureus or MRSA, that's very important. These are strains that are developing over time because people are using penicillin and all types of other antibiotics, and they're adapting to it. Why? Because the cells that don't die from the application of antibiotic then go on to produce more cells that then will not be affected. And a lot of times penicillin works on the cell wall, and when it compromises the cell membrane, when the cell membrane is compromised, when it links into the cell membrane, it causes a compromise in the cell membrane. And once the integrity of the cell membrane is no longer there, then the cell itself will die. But now you have certain cells, because they reproduce so many times, they may have an irregular cell membrane that does not adhere or cross-link with the penicillin, and therefore it is not affected no more by penicillin. But luckily, we have natural things that we can use that can eradicate almost any type of bacterial or viral infection. They do exist, family. They do. Okay. So we're going to move forward. All right. So again, skin colonization of Staph aureus in patients with eczema and atopic dermatitis and relevant combined topical therapy, a double-blind, multi-center randomized controlled trial. So sum it up. The study confirmed that lesional skin of patients with eczema and AD was more frequently colonized by S. aureus than was non-lesional skin. The more severe the eczema, the higher the colonization rate of S. aureus, and S. aureus was also more present in lesional and non-lesional skin in patients with AD and then in those with eczema, all right? Staph aureus infection is related to the pathogenesis of eczema and AD. When you have the colonization of this on your skin and your skin is impaired and it's not functioning properly, then you will be constantly bombarded with infections from this thing. And this is why when you go to the dermatologist, he has to keep prescribing you antibiotics, okay? And all antibiotics does is that it staves off or kills off the staph infection. But what if you have a strain of the staph that is not affected by whatever antibiotics that he gives you? Guess what? It's going to get worse, okay? But luckily, I have solutions that can help to address that. But I just want you guys to see the causes of these things, how the skin works. you know, the different things that are going on. So when you see all of these elements that are entangled with one another, and when there's an issue with all these elements, the way they're supposed to maintain a homeostasis or work together, when everybody's role breaks down, the skin breaks down, the immune system breaks down, and now you have eczema. All right. So we're going to skip past that. All right. Now, your lingering dendritic cell role, remember these cells, what they do is they sample the proteins of anything that gets onto the skin and brings it back to the T cells to predispose the T cells. So that way the T cells, when they mature, they can then go into the bloodstream and then do their job to stave off an attack or defend against an attack from antigens, right? But the manifestation of atopic dermatitis results from a complex interaction of environmental factors, skin barrier defects, and immunological phenomena. The initial events in AD remain unclear, while much progress has been made in identifying the mechanisms leading to the manifestation and maintenance of allergic inflammation. AD pathogenesis can be approached from many different points of view. In this review, we describe findings in mouse models and in humans separately. Before that underscore the importance of lingering cells and initial mechanisms of skin inflammation in AD. Conclusion: LCs form a dense network in the epidermis in which they are ideally positioned to detect pathogens that pervade the skin barrier. If the epidermal barrier is intact, innate immunity, for example, antimicrobial peptides protect from bacterial and viral assaults. In these situations, LCs are quiescent and primarily tolerogenic of self-antigens. In AD, skin barrier dysfunction results in transformation of the epidermal microenvironment in a pro-allergic milieu. These micromilieu characteristics for atopic skin critically involves TSLP, skew, and LC towards inducing immunity of the Th2 type. So when your body produces the Th2 type, that's the T cell that's responsible for creating these ILs or interleukins or antibodies, or predisposing the B cells to become particular to produce antibodies that then sensitizes the body and makes it vulnerable when it's attacked. And then when it is attacked, it overreacts to it. So when you study the dendritic cells or the lingering cells, these are antigen presenting cells that sample whatever it is, pollen, ragweed, whatever, brings it back to the T cell, gives it to the T cell. The T cell sees it, and the T cell then produces the appropriate cytokines or chemokines, or communicates with the B cell to tell the B cell what antibodies to create to protect the body when it comes into contact with this foreign antigen. All right. So these things go out of whack when the epidermal layer of the skin is imbalanced or impaired. All right. Not only does the lingering cells then go on high, high alert, they then start to act against the skin itself, because the skin itself is not doing what it's supposed to do, and the body or the white blood cells is trying to fix things. And again, further exasperates the disease. All right. So let's move forward. All right, we got the leukocyte role in skin inflammation, and over here at the top right shows you how the various various white blood cells, such as the T cells, the B cells, the mast cells, the lingering cells. It tells you the interleukins that they produce. It shows you how they are how they are fitted with antibodies made by the B cells. So that way, when it comes in contact with the antigens again, it knows how to respond to it. But you'll see all of that happening here in this image here, right? The T cells that are in the skin layer, the lingering cells that's in the skin layer, the interleukins that are being produced when the lingering cells encounter these antigens, or when the T cells encounter these antigens. And it shows you how it predisposes the Th2 helper cells or the Th1 helper cells, and it shows you the entire process. So I kind of summed it up for you, but this image really just brings it further into place. And you can always pause this, go back, zoom in, and check it out for yourself, and you can see further this article. You can look it up online and get it for yourself, okay? Mast cells, like I said, the mast cells are white blood cells that are stationed in the upper layer of the skin. When the body is sensitized, means when it first comes into contact with an antigen or an allergen, and it sets up an adaptive immune response to it, the B cells or the antibodies then adheres to these mast cells in the bloodstream. And the purpose of the mast cells is that when they come into contact with anything that it has been fitted with an antibody for, it then degranulates, or it bursts open and dumps out these granules that then send signals out to the rest of the nearby cells to do all types of different functions. And one of them is inflammation and various other signals that it sends out, which causes all types of issues because the body has been fitted with the wrong antibodies, all right? Because the wrong T cells were produced, and then the wrong T cells then gave the wrong message to the B cells that then produces the antibodies that then releases it. So it's fitted to these other white blood cells so they can respond to an attack, all right? So let me move forward. Now, type 1 sensitivity is very important because everybody that has atopic dermatitis, allergic rhinitis, or asthma, you have type 1 hypersensitivity, all right? Hypersensitivity is when an otherwise healthy immune system has an undesirable, exaggerated response to a foreign substance or perceived foreign substance that damages the body's own cells. These are the same immune processes that are necessary to prevent infection, but they create problems when they are hyperactive or misguided. I told you about the things that happen when the baby's an infant or when the baby is being given synthetic breast milk or has a lack of vitamin D, etc. All these things can throw the immune system off whack, all right? So type 1 hypersensitivity is triggered by an innocuous foreign substance like dust, pollen, or animal dander that would cause no problems in the majority of people. The antigen simultaneously binds more than one membrane or cross-links to IgE on mast cells or basophils. These are all white blood cells that have granules in them or little black dots. You will see it that holds certain proteins that then releases it when the cell erupts because it encounters a foreign body and tries to wage a preemptive attack against it. This process called cross-linking triggers the release of mast cell granules full of histamine. Now, you've heard of histamine before. Histamine is responsible for inflammation. So when you get a histamine blocker, what the synthetic drug does is it turns off the metabolic process that causes histamine to activate. You should never turn off something in the body because that's not how the body works. If the body itself is not signaling it, if a synthetic or foreign entity is signaling for the body to do something, you are throwing the body out of whack. What you have to do is take natural substances that work in tandem with the body to maintain stability and homeostasis in the body so it may function properly, okay? So it tells you this process is called cross-linking. Cross-linking is when you have two of these antibodies that come into contact with any kind of antigen, and then when that happens, then the mast cell erupts and it dumps out histamine that then causes inflammation and all types of other things, all right? It says, histamine then goes on to signal the various changes associated with allergies similar to how it functions during acute inflammation. This allergic reaction happens almost instantly and the symptoms can become evident within minutes. This is possible because the mast cells are pre-sensitized to the innocuous substance, which means they have preformed membrane-bound IgE, which is an antibody, that recognizes the particular innocuous antigen. To be pre-sensitized, the immune system must have seen the antigen previously because IgE formation takes time. Histamine's role in type 1 hypersensitivity is why antihistamines or histamine antagonists like diphenhydramine or loratadine can control some allergy symptoms. This is also why how Benadryl works. So Benadryl turns off the histamine function, all right? Type 1 hypersensitivity is the process that leads to various different allergies. What we're really focusing on is some individuals with these allergies also experience an atopic rash, such as urticaria or hives or atopic dermatitis, which is eczema. This red rash is raised and pruritic or itchy. Through a similar mechanism, type 1 hypersensitivity can also lead to exacerbation of allergic asthma by environmental triggers. And it also goes on to say it is treated with epinephrine or epinephrine, often in the form of an EpiPen when outside of a medical setting. Epinephrine, activates alpha-1 I'm tongue-tied. Adrenergic receptors to raise blood pressure via vasoconstriction. So vaso has to do with your arteries and your vascular areas of your body, and increase contractility of the heart. So the way the heart contracts over time as well. So they raise the blood pressure to open up these blood vessels in order for certain things to work. All right. And again, the EpiPen have saved the lives of a lot of people with allergic reactions or people that have asthma or people that have even atopic dermatitis as well, because it has histamine blockers. And this is something also to keep in mind, but you never want to synthetically alter the body. You always want to take natural things that allows the body to work in its natural state when it comes into contact with these natural ingredients, okay? Because the body knows how to break it down and dispose of it safely as well, all right? All right, so we're gonna move forward. Antimicrobial peptide deficiency. Again, antimicrobial peptides are small chain proteins that are designed to buffer allergens such as bacteria or whatever else the case may be, and also kill it on contact. The body produces these things in various layers of skin. When you have eczema, there's a decreased antimicrobial peptide activity because there's a deficiency in it. And when that happens, you have no buffer against these antigens like bacteria or staph that then tries to enter into the body, all right? So interleukins that contribute to AD pathology. This is very important, right? When the body produces IL-4, interleukin-4, again, which is a cytokine, all right? What it does is that it activates the B cells, it activates other T cells, and it has actions onto the endothelium. Now, endothelium has to do with any layer of the body that is underneath the ectothelium. And the purpose of that is it has certain buffering functions against any kind of foreign body that try to get into the skin or the mucosal membrane. So when it activates the B cells, there's a proliferation and differentiation. Remember, that is attached to vitamin D. IgG1 and IgE synthesis. Important role in allergic response is IgE. When the body has prematurely sensitized itself to that antibody, then you can have a lot of issues. But interleukin-4 is the cytokine or chemokine or protein signaling messenger that tells certain cells, hey, the B cells, hey, I want you to arm yourself, for IgE against this ragweed or pollen, which it should not be doing. But then it does that. It also helps additional T cells to proliferate, so it can also attack, and it increases the expression of the vascular cell adhesion molecule, promoting adhesion of lymphocytes. So these lymphocytes can attach to various layers underneath the skin, so it can do its job, such as mast cells, all right? Then you also have the IL-13. These two are very important. And what this does is that it affects the Th2 cells, B cells, and macrophages. Your macrophages is those amoeba-looking white cells that surrounds or creates a vacuole over a bacteria, and it pushes enzymes into the vacuole in order to kill the bacteria, and it takes a sample of it, and it also brings and presents it to the T cells in the body, or if it makes its way to the lymph nodes, all right? And the lymph nodes are the areas of the body in which your white blood cells proliferate, differentiate, mature, and then from there, there's sites of lymph nodes all throughout your body, so those white blood cells can immediately get to the site of injury as fast as possible. But when IL-13 and IL-4 is produced prematurely, it stimulates the growth and differentiation of B cells with IgE. It inhibits the Th1. So if you have a Th1 cell, which operates functionally the way it's supposed to, whenever the body encounters something, because you have extracellular protection and intracellular protection, whenever interleukin-13 is produced, it tells the alpha or the primitive Th0 cell, which is your T cell, hey, I want you to turn into a Th2 cell. And when that happens, the Th1 cells, they stop being produced until the Th2 cells do their job. And if something else happens and there's a need for a Th1, then other interleukins will be produced, and it'll shrink those Th2s and activate Th1. Well, unfortunately, people that have eczema have a high increase of Th2 production and a low increase of Th1 production. When that happens, then you have a situation where the body wages the wrong type of attack against foreign bodies that it should not be attacking the way it does in the first place. So when you take probiotics helps to do this function where it ensures that there's a healthy balance between the Th1 and Th2 cells. So that way you have an increase of Th1 cells and a slightly decrease of Th2 cells, so that the proper offensive is launched or defensive is launched against these foreign bodies that are coming into the skin, which should not really be doing the wrong effect in the first place. So again, the body either has these interleukins roaming around, or the body produces the wrong interleukins and causes the wrong cascade of processes or activities to occur, which then exacerbates the actual disease of atopic dermatitis or eczema, in which the skin is already impaired, already has issues, already in shambles. Now the immune system is responding the wrong way because of other deficiencies that has predisposed it to react the wrong way. And now you have a whole entanglement of issues. So I'm only sharing this to those who are really interested in depth, or people that just want a reference point to go back and research for themselves. But you have to understand this disease at this level to know how to counter it. And people who create products or give you suggestions, if they don't understand it at this level, it's very difficult for them to prove to you that whatever it is that they suggest to you can actually work. All right. The burden of proof is going to be on them. All right, now this right here talks about the heightened Th2 inflammatory response seen in AD results from a number of factors with increased SP activity, serine protease activity, and sustained structural and functional stratum corneum barrier defects believed to be dominant contributors. All right, now the conclusion here is I'm gonna read where it says Th2 inflammation decreases the production of several antimicrobial peptides, the things that are there to buffer you against any kind of microbes that try to enter into your body. Well, when you have an increased rate of Th2 in your body, Th2 helper cells, well, it also tells these AMPs stop producing so much. All right, inducing human cathelicidin product, HCAP, LL37, major cathelicidin peptide, and human beta defensins 2 and 3. It is important to note that decreases in AMPs along with the SC barrier defects seen in AD contribute to the increased colonization of pathogens such as S. aureus and Malassezia furfur and AD skin. The increased colonization of atopic skin with S. aureus not only increases the risk of infections in AD patients, but also perpetuates the elevation of IgE and allergic sensitization, and certain strains of S. aureus produce exotoxins and other proteins that can act as super antigens that participate in the elicitation and or prolongation of AD flares. So what happens is when the body starts producing these Th2 cells abnormally in response to these antigens that are coming through the skin, it starts to produce these interleukins that then tells the body to do all these type of abnormal responses, and then further impairs the skin and further exacerbates the condition. So you must get your T cells in check, as well as repairing the skin layer, so that way it is not leaky and it does not force an adverse reaction. You must repair the skin. You must stabilize and balance your white blood cells that are responding to perturbations in the skin. All right. So synthetic breast milk as well. We went into this here. This right here gives you information in regards to synthetic breast milk. But in atopy is a type 1 hypersensitivity or allergic reaction for which there is a genetic predisposition. Atopy includes eczema, asthma, and allergic reactions. Over the past 10 to 15 years, the prevalence of these conditions have increased steadily in children 1 to 5 years of age, with asthma exacerbation accounting for 50% of all emergency hospital visits. Atopy causes considerable health care costs and significantly reduces the quality of life in young children. Currently, many believe breast milk may prevent atopy by decreasing allergic sensitizations through avoidance of allergens and by modulating the infant's immune system. Several research investigations support the prevention of atopy by breastfeeding. Then it gives you an example of that, right? But it goes, if you read this, it says, moreover, formulas do not change in composition as the infant ages. Thus, formula is not responsive to a growing infant's nutritional needs, which makes the digestive process more difficult. And when your gastrointestinal tract is compromised, where almost 70% of your T cells reside, right, in the intestinal tract, your gastrointestinal tract, when you have a lack of balance or imbalance of probiotics, which is communal bacteria that lines in the intestinal walls, and their objective is to buffer out unwanted bacteria or viruses and also help to assist in the digestive process. When those things die out or they're not colonizing the way they should, then foreign bodies enter into the stomach, and that can cause the immune system to go out of whack. And you have what's called leaky gut syndrome, okay? When you start to have a breakdown in the mucosal layers of the stomach, the acidity of the stomach either decreases even further or gets more alkaline. Then the probiotics are not there to buffer off these things, and you have a cascade of issues. All right. But when a child is drinking synthetic breast milk, it is not organic in a sense where it develops with the child as the child ages, but it's only a standard list of ingredients that is supposed to do a one-shot deal, but you continuously feed it to the child. So as the child gets older, it is not able to develop the way it should, as if the child was getting, organic breast milk. All right. So this article right here goes into the history of infant feeding, and it tells you that synthetic breast milk is a big contributor to people with any kind of atopic type disease, such as eczema. So parents, if you are planning on getting pregnant, are pregnant, or are breastfeeding, please either keep breastfeeding, plan to breastfeed, because if you do not, you will predispose your child, if you prematurely give them synthetic breast milk, to have this type of disease. All right. That's extremely important. Now, look at this. Vaccine link to atopic dermatitis. Now, family, as I'm going through these slides, you see I'm getting all of this from medical journals, okay? I'm not just pulling this from Joe Blow offline or giving you my opinion. Everything that I'm teaching you, I'm showing you all the articles that are validating what it is that I'm explaining to you. So it says atopic dermatitis is increased following vaccination for measles, mumps, and rubella, MMR. Okay, the incidence of atopic dermatitis increased after MMR vaccination and measles infections, which is surprising in view of the hygiene hypothesis. So if your child has been inoculated with the MMR vaccination, guess what? You can predispose that child to atopic dermatitis. Or if you're getting it later on in life as an adult, you can also exacerbate that condition for occurring in your adulthood. I'm not making this up. This is not my opinion. This is from a medical journal article, family. You can look it up for yourself. Atopic dermatitis and the hygiene hypothesis. It says 2 well-designed cohort studies have found a positive association between infections in early life in AD and measles vaccinations in AD. Antibiotic use was consistently associated with increased in AD risk even into the antenatal period. Antenatal, that means before the child is born. So you have the antenatal period. Although a few studies did not reach conventional statistical significance, a few small randomized controlled trials have suggested that probiotics can reduce AD severity and that probiotics may also be able to prevent AD to some degree. Why is that? And I told you before, the probiotics that you line your intestinal tract with, and there's one strain in particular that I would advise people to take, right? At the normal dosage. Do not take too much, all right? Because it can have an adverse effect. At the normal dosage, you can control the outbreak of eczema by way of the probiotics. The probiotics, like I said, they help to predispose the body to produce more Th1 as opposed to Th2 cells. And therefore, when there's an increase of Th1 cells and they act improperly, you also have your standard production of AMPs. You have the standard production of the keratinocytes in the body, the immune response when they're attacked, etc., etc. But over here on the right, it says eczema vaccinatum is frequently iatrogenic and uniformly preventable. The following steps are recommended for prophylaxis, right? No child with atopic eczema or other skin disorders should be vaccinated. No child should be vaccinated if any member of his family has eczema or other skin disorder. Parents or children with eczema should be notified at the onset of the disease of the danger from vaccination contact. If a sibling of a child with atopic eczema is vaccinated, he must be completely separated from that child for at least 21 days. Forms used by state and local health departments for parents' consent to vaccination should include an appropriate warning of the contraindictions. Eczema vaccinatum should be a reportable disease. Patients recently vaccinated must be excluded from pediatric wards containing patients with atopic eczema, other disease of the skin, burns, or healing surgical incisions. Vaccination may be recommended at 2 months of age, especially for babies from strongly allergic families. Now, what you just read here is extremely important. If a child has the onset symptoms of eczema, they should not be vaccinated. Now, this is me telling you giving you or educating you. I'm not prescribing anything. I'm not telling you what to do. I'm just telling you what this article is stating. So if children do have eczema or they have the onset of the symptoms of eczema, they should not be vaccinated because it will increase or exacerbate it even further. And it cause a whole cascade of issues that I can't even go into detail right now. And I'm just reading for you what these medical articles are saying. All right. Now, vitamin D deficiency and the AD connection. Remember, I read this to y'all before. And what I'm going to read is just what's highlighted. Given the potential for vitamin D to suppress inflammatory response, enhance antimicrobial peptide activity, and promote the integrity of the permeability barrier, supplementation provides a possible therapeutic intervention for a variety of skin disorders, including atopic dermatitis. Again, vitamin D is a hormone in the body, not a true vitamin. And its job, it does so many things for you. And most African Americans are vitamin D deficient. And if the parent is deficient, prenatally and postnatally, the child will also be affected. And when the child is growing up and they don't get the proper diet, then they also would have issues in regards to being predisposed to atopic dermatitis. Make sure you and the child and anybody that has eczema get your daily value dosage of vitamin D, and in the onset of the symptoms of eczema, you must raise that 2,000 IUs, so at least anywhere from 2,500 IUs to 4,000 IUs during the healing process, all right? And when you get back to normal, you go back to 2,000 IUs of vitamin D, all right? So also vitamin D's effects on cytokines and T cells. Remember I told you the T cells, certain T cells, when they are produced, they cause an adverse effect towards eczema, and certain ones, when they produce, they cause a positive effect, but the ones that are really detrimental is the Th2 cells when they mature and they produce certain interleukins that predisposes B cells to create certain antibodies to react in an aggravated manner towards these irritants or these antigens. So vitamin D helps to balance out these T cells and your white blood cells. So again, vitamin D is very effectual in helping you with eczema, okay? Not only do they affect your T cells and cytokines, or the protein signals that go between cells, but they also help with the dendritic cells, which are your Langerhans cells, the cells that sample proteins and go back to the white blood cells and tell it what to do. Vitamin D controls or stabilizes these dendritic cells so they don't send the wrong messages to the C cell when they're presenting these proteins, all right? So vitamin D, again, and all I'm giving you is medical scientific articles. This is not my opinion. This is not Joe Blow off the internet. This is not some random video of somebody who proclaims to be a health guru. No, these are things that have actually been proven, family, all right? And you can look at the article for yourself. Also, vitamin D has an effect on keratinocytes and filaggrin. Again, when you are out of balance with vitamin D, it throws everything off of whack, especially cells that proliferate and differentiate. Vitamin D is at the heart at preventing eczema and atopic dermatitis. Not just it by itself, but is one major core factor that must be considered in any regimen when it comes to helping you treat or resolve your eczematic outbreaks, all right? Then I go into breastfeeding and vitamin D deficiency link, right? So when the child is not being breastfed, they get a deficiency of vitamin D because they're not getting that from their mother. Infants who are exclusively breastfed but who do not receive supplemental vitamin D or adequate sunlight exposure are at increased risk of developing vitamin D deficiency or rickets. Infants with darker pigmentation are at greater risk of vitamin D deficiency, a fact explained by the greater risk of deficiency at birth and the decreased vitamin D content in milk from women who themselves are deficient. If the mother is deficient in vitamin C and she's breastfeeding the child and that child is not getting ample enough sunlight or supplements of vitamin D, that child will be predisposed for atopic dermatitis, i.e. eczema. Okay, so breastfeeding is important for stabilizing the immune system, but also the mother must take the adequate amount of vitamin D in order to supply it to the child, so that the child themselves are deficient, and the child can be exposed to enough sunlight or receive supplements, so that way they're getting their daily value dosage of vitamin D. And it is extremely important for people of dark pigmentation to ensure that they're getting ample amount of vitamin D because they're more easily deficient in vitamin D than those of their lighter counterparts. Extremely important, family. Extremely important. Now, we're at the end now, and I know this is pretty lengthy. I know it's very informational. I know there's a lot of information in it, and that's fine. It may take you having to go over it 2 or 3 times to capture everything that I explained, but I'm going to sum everything up for you right now. I'm going to make it very simple, and then we're going to move on to solutions. So we know that eczema is a condition that is a compromise of the response of the immune system, the development of the immune system to foreign attacks, and impairment of the skin barrier functions. Okay, the main culprits for the skin issues is the lack of ceramides, the lack of antimicrobial peptides, which is designed to buffer away any of those staph bacteria or any other kind of bacteria that try to colonate on the skin. Also, the skin flora, you have to have a good amount of skin flora that is positive, that assists with buffering out bad bacteria. You also must balance your pH of the skin, which should be 5, okay? A little under 5. Your skin should never be alkaline. If you are constantly putting on alkaline products on your skin, you are compromising your skin. And if you have eczema, you're exacerbating it even worse. And you are making the condition to a point where it probably will never be treated or can be treated. So also make sure that you're not applying anything that is not pH balanced for your skin. Again, you get a cup of water, of pH balanced water. Let's say pH balance will be neutral if you can get it to 7. And what you will do is that you'll take any product that you're applying on your skin, your hair, detergents or whatever, you'll mix it into that water. You'll wait maybe about 15-20 minutes up to 30 minutes. You come back with litmus paper, you plug the litmus paper into that water, and you pull the litmus paper out, let it dry, match it against the scar card, and see what that pH is. If that pH is too alkaline and you have eczema, you are going to make the condition worse. If that pH is too acidic, you're also going to make that condition worse. It should go from anywhere from 4.5 to 5.5 is the optimal range that anything that's being placed on your skin should be. If your diet is 100% alkaline, you're also going to suffer from alkalosis, as well as you're going to cause further issues to the skin, and you're going to continue to have eczema. So skin pH must be balanced. Skin flora or on your skin must also be balanced, which means that you should not always apply things that are antimicrobial, because when you do that, you kill off this good bacteria, and then you cause an imbalance of the skin, and they cannot assist you when it comes time for other harmful bacteria comes to infect you or get past them and into the bloodstream. Okay, filaggrin also is a culprit in the skin, because remember, filaggrin is designed to hold together the keratinocytes, and as it moves along, as it moves from the bottom up, right, it turns into a natural moisturizing factor to make sure that the cells are moisturized. Okay, when the filaggrin breaks down, you have an increase in serine protease activity, which starts to cut the proteins that are functioning normally in the skin and breaks them down to peptides and makes them insufficient to function. Okay, and serine protease also increases the alkalinity of the skin. Okay. Then you also have the ceramides, and the ceramides are responsible for coating the skin, and the cholesterol also for balancing out the skin, because they are lipids, and the lipids are responsible for preventing moisture from going out, preventing the skin from drying off, and dehydration. So ceramides are very important. Natural moisturizing factors are very important. Antimicrobial peptides are very important, but all of these things decrease when the filaggrin is disturbed, and also when the body has a high increase of Th2 response to anything that is coming through the skin, and it produces the interleukins that we saw earlier, that then sends out the wrong signals for the cells to produce the wrong type of response in regards to what is going on. Vitamin D deficiency is also a cause to predispose you for any type of atopic disease such as eczema. If the mother is prenatally deficient of vitamin D, then the child will also be predisposed. If the child is born, is not getting enough sunlight or vitamin D supplements from their mother through breast milk or other means, the child also will be predisposed to atopic dermatitis. So vitamin D plays a very functional role. Probiotics, having a healthy amount of probiotics in the intestinal lining will increase Th1 activity over Th2 activity, so that way the body can produce the proper response to any kind of foreign antigens that come through the skin. Also, breast milk. Make sure the child is breastfed as much as possible, at least up to 6 months. The child must get all of its colostrum, and then with the other parts of the breast milk, all the other ingredients that it needs in order for it to normalize its immune system. If that child has eczema or the onset of symptoms for eczema and gets vaccinated, that also will contribute to eczematic reactions. And like I said, it's mostly the adjuvants that will cause the body to have an extracellular response abnormally to these adjuvants that are being placed into the body, like formaldehyde, formalin, aluminum hydroxide, etc., and force the wrong type of reaction, which then may further predispose the body for type 1 hypersensitivity and also exacerbate the skin itself, impairing its function, and predisposing that child for eczema. So if you get synthetic breast milk, if you have a vitamin D deficiency, and the child is and let's say, for example, the synthetic breast milk, the vitamin D deficiency, and the child also from the mother not getting the right breast milk that it should be getting, then the child is already going to be at a loss, and mutations are going to happen either prenatally or postnatally, in which the child will also be predisposed for eczema. So make sure we have to control the skin barrier. We must control the immune system, and there's various things that we can take in order to do so. Now I'm going to go over a few of those solutions for you, because I really want to give at least another 15 minutes if y'all are still up for question and answer, because I want to make sure that you guys understand that I put hours and years of research into this to look at everything that can possibly affect somebody that has atopic dermatitis. I've parsed out all the different elements that can aggregate it, that is the cause of it, etc. And then what I did was I condensed it and I streamlined it to the major core things that are affecting people with this disease. And then I'm showing you natural elements that can work in tandem with the body to fix these issues and hopefully resolve the ill that the person is suffering from. All right. And again, family, I thank everybody who've donated, because they've allowed this session to be free. All right. That's normally $100 educational seminar to be free for all of you who are watching right now. If this has been impactful for you and you would like to donate further, you can do so via the link in the description box, or you can send a super chat donation. And again, all of that will go to research and development that Kingdom Harvard Ministry does, and that gets funneled down to naturopathic eating. And then we can have more of these free group sessions for you guys, and also do further research in order to produce more solutions for you guys, and then provide the services that we then provide after you get the seminars. Okay. So the solutions: optimal diet, avoid food allergens, environmental allergens, right? And food allergens you can avoid. You may not be able to avoid every environmental allergen, but if you repair the skin and stabilize the white blood cell or the leukocytes in your body, then you have a fighting chance against any environmental allergen, okay? Breastfeeding. Highly suggested that you breastfeed, all right? Probiotics, all right? Mind you, we got to deal with the internal and external factors. Phytoceramides. You can get ceramides from plant bases, okay? Garlic, because it's an antioxidant. Antioxidants are very important because they attack free radicals. And when you have high free radical or oxidative damage to the skin, it also further impairs the skin. So antioxidants are also very important for not only stabilizing the immune system, but also ensuring that the skin is not further impaired, which then can exacerbate the disease, all right? Antioxidants and vitamin D. Antioxidants, the best ones you want to get from any kind of dark berry, like blackberries, blueberries. Those are my favorites for antioxidants, all right? And vitamin D supplements, okay? Quercetin. Quercetin is a natural histamine stabilizer, right? Because when the body produces too much histamine, you have severe inflammation, which can then cause itching and all types of stuff. What quercetin does is that it's a natural element that stabilizes the histamine production, so that way it doesn't get to levels that are too high and the body does not produce too much, and it is controlled, okay? Herbs as well can help with all types of the ailments that you face with eczema. Dermaway. Dermaway works in a way where it positively affects the white blood cells in the skin, the upper skin layers, so that way it functions normally, okay? Black seed oil is great for anybody with hand eczema as well. Black seed oil is not a cure-all, but it does a lot of different things. But you want to use black seed oil because it is great for the skin for people that have eczema, okay? Manuka honey is also very important because it helps with anybody that has any damage to the skin. And now, typically, you don't want to give honey to infants or young children because they may have an adverse allergic response to honey. But if it's a teenager or an adult, you want to use honey, especially on the surface of the skin. Honey has antimicrobial properties, anti-inflammatory properties, and it helps with the healing process for any damages done by eczematic reactions, okay? Colloidal oatmeal. You want to get organic colloidal oatmeal because some authentic oatmeal is now GMO'd. But if you get organic colloidal oatmeal, what they can do is act as a temporary glue to keep the cells together when your filaggrin is inefficient, when it is deficient, when it is not functioning properly, until you're able to repair the filaggrin, okay? Urea or lipid moisturizers, because again, the lipid layer by the lamellar bodies, which are those little granule cells that I showed you earlier in the lecture, they open up and they layer or they coat the cells as they're moving up. So that way the cells are coated and protected to retain moisture and to buffer out any unwanted antigens from coming or allergens from coming into the body, okay? But you can get urea, which is also part of this, made as part of the skin. It's not urine, okay? Urea and lipid moisturizer. And you may see lipids and urea actually in lotions that you may get and to put on the skin. But remember, whatever moisturizer you use, they must be pH balanced. If they are not pH balanced, they can make the eczema worse, okay? And last but not least is coal tar. You're gonna be like, what, coal tar? Yes, I'm not talking about 100% potent coal tar. You're just gonna rub it on your skin. You're not gonna do that because if you do that, you're gonna have all sorts of issues. But in diluted amounts, coal tar can force the expression of filaggrin. And once the filaggrin is repaired, everything else comes back to normal in the upper layer of the skin. But once you do that, you're not fixing the problem because you still got to stabilize the immune system. But coal tar externally, and I'll tell you the percentage of coal tar that should be in an admixture of other things, and it should be highly diluted. But when you use this, this is a great way. And you don't put it on every day, you know, you put it on maybe a couple times out of a week, but it's a great way to force the expression of filaggrin so that the body can get back into gear and operate normally, okay? Now, some people say, oh, you know, coal tar, you know, causes cancer and everything like that. Well, they haven't looked at the latest studies, which says that in a lot of the over-the-counter solutions that you can get that have mild amounts of coal tar in it or trace amounts of coal tar in it, it does not cause cancer over a sustained period of time. I have the article that I will show you real quick that states that, and that these solutions are excellent in causing or forcing the filaggrin to express itself so the skin barrier can get back to normal. So what you're seeing here, solutions, all of these things can contribute to your health and help you to repair your immune system and your skin barrier so things can get back to normal. Now, I have other secret weapons that I also put in the regimen that is not here that also assist externally and internally, as those things can assist you as well. But if you would like to customize for yourself these solutions, feel free to do so, okay? Or you can purchase our customized regimen package. And with that package, we can customize a regimen that is catered to your profile. And then we do follow-up visits and we monitor you over time until there's results, okay? So all I'm going to do right now is, again, the optimal diet for eczema sufferers is the 75% alkaline diet and 25 acidic diet. Now on here, you probably can't see, it's a little small, but I show you the foods that are highly alkaline, moderately alkaline, mildly alkaline. So highly, moderately, mildly, neutral, mildly acidic foods, moderately acidic foods, and highly acidic foods. All right. Now, all of this is very important because you have to know what you're taking in your body and be able to maintain based on the daily value percentage of intake of various elements that you're getting from these foods to make sure everything is stabilized. So that way you're getting 75% alkaline, 25 acidic. You should never have a 100% alkaline diet because that will make you sick. Okay, that will, and you can research it. Look up alkalosis. Okay, I didn't want to get too much in it earlier, but that can make you sick. But optimal diet, having these foods, understand what foods are highly alkaline, moderately alkaline, mildly alkaline. Again, when we give you the regimen, we customize your diet with ingredients off of here to ensure that it's balanced evenly between alkaline and acidic. So that way you're getting what you need in the regimen. So that's one thing that we do offer in the regimen, okay? All right, food allergens to avoid. Now, if you are suffering from eczema, one thing they tend to do is a process of elimination, which means whatever your normal diet is, you're instructed, hey, take this item out this week. You still have the flare-ups, take that item out next week. You still have allergies, take that item. So what they do is they look at your diet that you currently have, and they say, okay, let's eliminate ingredients one anymore. And this is what you do for anything, any type of ailment, disease that you may have. Always examine your diet to see what you're putting in your body that can be causing an aggravation of the disease in which you have. So it says the 8 foods identified by the law or the FDA that is potential or major food allergens is milk, eggs, fish, crustaceans, shellfish, tree nuts, peanuts, wheat, and soybeans. If you have eczema, you should stay away from all of these things until your eczema has been resolved or is under control. If it's not, and you're eating these things can potentially cause an allergic reaction because your type 1 hypersensitivity that you have when you have eczema, and these foods can cause a disturbance and cause you to have an outbreak. So you want to avoid eating these foods or eating at restaurants that cook and have these foods there, or look for products in the foods that you currently eat. Stay away from any of these ingredients, all right? If you have eczema, until your eczema is under control. These things in your diet, or it's in snacks that you eat, or at restaurants that you go eat foods at, or they're cooking the food that you eat at a restaurant, with these ingredients, again, it can cause issues, all right? Environmental allergens, soaps and detergents, cosmetics, clothing. Why? Because cosmetics, soap and detergents are irritants that can make their way past the outer layer of the skin, cause a leukocyte reaction or white blood cell response, and then the body can go haywire, okay? Also, the soaps, detergents, and cosmetics can also change the pH balance of the skin and make it highly alkaline, which allows colonization of bacteria and also the breakdown of other processes in the skin. Clothing as well, very, very thin fibers, because the skin is leaky, can get through the skin on a micro level and cause irritation, okay? Jewelry as well, sweat as well. When you have pockets of sweat, when you go to sleep, that can also exacerbate eczema. So you also always want to try to be maintaining a cool environment where you're not sweating a lot, and make sure that you're not, and if you are sweating a lot, you want to make sure that you drink water with electrolytes in it, because you start to get dehydrated the more sweat that you have. And if you're dehydrated internally, it can cause dehydration in the skin, which can also cause dry skin. Temperature changes, stress as well, can also jumpstart the immune system to act abnormally, and then the immune system will then act on the skin, and then the skin will be impaired and then allow things to affect it and then affect the immune system, and the cycle starts all over again. And allergens as well. If you can avoid allergens as well, you'll see over on the right side, I give you the various causes of eczema as it pertains to environmental allergens, okay? Breastfeeding, I went into you as well, why breastfeeding is important, right? And again, if you look here at this table, you'll see all the proteins, the cytokines, the chemokines that you get. You get interleukin 10, you get the tumor necrosis factor alpha, you get interleukin 4, interleukin 5, interleukin 13, you get the interferon, you get interleukin 2, interleukin 12, you get defensins, you get lactoferrin, you get casein, you get carbohydrates, you get antioxidants, you get lipids, you get nucleic acids, you get a preferable bacteria, you get immune modulation, the correct way, anti-inflammatory effects, pro-inflammatory effects, stimulation of Th2 immunity, Th1 immunity, which means they start to be stabilized. You get anti-inflammatory effects, antimicrobial activities. I mean, the list goes on. Why it is important that the mother should breastfeed the child, because she transfers all of these things to the child, and the breast milk develops as the child develops. And this is why pheromones is also important, because the pheromones are activated from parent to child, so that way the breast milk knows what it needs to produce. And the way the child latches on, the saliva to the nipple, all of these things stimulates the right amount of dosage of these ingredients from the mother to the child. But also the mother herself must make sure her diet is optimal, must make sure that she is as healthy as she can be when she breastfeeds her child. Okay, that's very important. I mentioned probiotics as well. Lactobacillus rhamnosus is the best probiotics if you want to modulate the T cell activity in the body and also have a profound effect on the effects of eczema. So this is the best probiotics for eczema sufferers. All right. And this is what I suggest. You want to get one that's placed in a veggie capsule. And this is a great brand right here, Swanson. And it gives you everything you need, the prebiotics to feed the probiotics and the probiotics themselves that adheres or latches on to your gastrointestinal tract to assist you with your immune response in regards to eczema. If you have the right amount of probiotics in your diet, it will stabilize your TH1, TH2 activity, which would then be stabilized in response to anything that's coming into the skin and causing the cycle of eczema. So probiotics in your diet is very important, okay? Now go into how probiotics work here in this document, but I'm going to skip past that. Look at this, the middle document, probiotics and prevention of atopic disease, 4-year follow-up of a randomized placebo-controlled trial. It says perinatal administration of the probiotic Lactobacillus rhamnosus reduces incidence of atopic eczema in at-risk children during the first 2 years of life. We have therefore assessed persistence of the potential to prevent atopic eczema at 4 years. Atopic disease was diagnosed on the basis of a questionnaire and a clinical examination. 14 of 53 children received the lactobacillus had developed atopic eczema compared to the 25 of 54 receiving placebo. Skin prick test reactivity was the same in both groups. Our results suggest that the preventive effect of lactobacillus GG on atopic eczema extends beyond infancy. Okay? Very, very, very important. All right. Treatment of LGG may alleviate AEDS symptoms and IgE sensitized. Remember, when you have eczema, you are sensitized with the antibody IgE. Sensitized infants, but not in non-IgE sensitized infants, which means that when you take the probiotic bacteria that they suggest here for AEDS, it helps are affected by IgE sensitization. When the body has the the IgE antibodies that are on the mast cells, the B cells that the body produced in the wrong matter to respond to these allergens that typically they should not react to. Now the probiotics helps to assist children who are disposed or predisposed with these antibodies, or their bodies producing these antibodies. This is extremely, extremely important, families, to know this. And I'm glad I'm able to show this with you guys so that you understand it. Again, L. ramosis probiotic shows long-lasting anti-eczema benefits for kids. Okay, very important. If you have babies, this is probably the best probiotic that you can give them to give them a fighting chance against eczema until the immune system stabilizes and the skin itself is able to repair, because as babies, their skin proliferates and differentiates very, very quickly. So if any defuncts are there or dysfunctions are there, the baby can typically help fix it itself if it's receiving the proper amount of nutrients. And vitamin D is very, very important to skin health, family, okay? As well as vitamin E is also important, but vitamin D is essential as a hormone in order to get everything else back in sync. Phytoceramides also very important. These are supplement ceramides to help equip the body that has a deficiency in ceramide. So you take these things, and this actually helps the body in its ceramide production. Okay. And here's an article that actually goes into detail on how this thing works. I'm not going to go over right now because we're extremely over time. Garlic as well suppresses leukocyte inflammatory cytokine production in vitro. Right? Potential therapeutic use in the treatment of inflammatory bowel disease. But also what it's saying to you is that Allium sativum, which is garlic, suppresses leukocyte inflammatory cytokine response. So when the body produces histamines and all other types of things, which produces a symptom in eczema, which is inflammation, garlic helps to suppress that naturally. And that's what you want, okay? Antioxidants also help in the leukocyte production of inflammatory mediators. And all of these inflammatory mediators are inhibited by certain antioxidants, and you see several of them right there. Now, resveratrol. It can be found in your antioxidant foods, such as your berries and things of that nature. Okay, so that's important if you have inflammation in the skin and you want to take these things on a weekly basis. Make sure you have these antioxidants from foods on a weekly basis that will help to reduce inflammation naturally and train the body not to overproduce when it's not necessary. Okay, right here, foods, and those antioxidants, I have them listed here: red grapes, blueberries, dark chocolate. I know some of you are like, wow, dark chocolate. Yeah, brown rice, oats, whole wheat, pineapple, beet greens, black cohosh, grapefruit, plums, apricots, and bilberry. Okay, bilberry is good for eyes. Black cohosh is good for it helps with a variety of different things, such as heat flashes and things of that nature. Okay, and we know pineapple has bromelain in it. Bromelain is good for cancer and a variety of other things. And I could go on and on with the benefits, a lot of the ingredients that are listed here on this list. All right. Then antioxidant-rich foods that you can see here: goji berries, wild blueberries, pecans, artichoke, elderberries, kidney beans, cranberries, blackberries, cilantro, cloves, cinnamon, oregano, turmeric. Vitamin D supplements, also vitamin D3, 2000 IU is the daily value. But if you're sick, you want to get the healing value, which should be double the dose. Okay. And here it explains the importance of vitamin D for rejuvenating your bones. If your bones are weak, guess what? You're not going to have a strong system, because the precursors for your blood cells come from your bones. And if your bones are not well, you will be sick. You need potassium, magnesium, along with calcium to ensure that your bone density and bone health is optimal. Keep that in mind, okay? So vitamin D assists with the rejuvenation of your bones. And if you're deficient in vitamin D, your immune system, by way of your blood cells, will not operate optimally, okay? All right. Quercetin, I mentioned as well. It inhibits the transcriptional upregulation of histamine H1 receptor by suppressing protein kinase, and it tells you what that is and the signaling pathways of HeLa cells. Pretty much what that's saying to you is quercetin prevents the body from upregulating or producing too much histamine. It helps to naturally regulate it. Quercetin is not only good for people with atopic dermatitis, but also people with asthma and people with allergic rhinitis or allergies as well, because histamine is involved in all three of those diseases. Okay, so you never want to get in an alternative histamine that is not natural or organic. Okay. Um, Okay, that's the article on that. There's various herbs that is good for eczema, nettle leaf. And nettle leaf is also good for allergic rhinitis as well. If you have nose issues, right? Swelling the nose, mucus, etc. Chamomile, yarrow, lavender, rose, echinacea. Okay. And then you can make a rose and chamomile face wash as well. It shows you there as well. So if you have any ingredients that you want to help to treat eczema, make sure it has these herbs in it, because these herbs specifically helps with eczema. Okay. Dermaway. Now, it's very hard to come across Dermaway, but what Dermaway does is that the way that is used in here, it forces the proper immune response by the white blood cells in the skin, so it does not overreact when it comes to contact with irritants or allergens that it should not be overreacting to. So it helps to maintain, stabilize, and balance the immune system. Okay, some people may be allergic to whey, and if you are, stay away from this. But if you are not, this can actually help you in controlling and reversing your eczema reactions, your atopic dermatitis. Black seed oil is also great. You want to get this cream. Here's an article that shows you how this thing can actually help you with hand eczema, right? Some of you may be familiar with Eucerin. Eucerin is a brand that makes a lot of different lotions, which I recommend. Eucerin is probably the best brand for people that suffer from eczema, because I mean, a lot of the studies that they do and the ingredients that they put into their products are top notch. So much so that a lot of the most effective ingredients are not sold in the US. That's how effective Eucerin products are. The ones that we get in the US, they're watered down. The ones that they sell overseas in like Asia or Europe, Those are the best ones to get. So the ones that I had to get, I had to pay to get it shipped from the EU. Okay. And again, here's Nigella sativa, which is the scientific name for black seed, on subjective feeling in patients with allergic diseases and how it helps that in the subjective setting. Manuka honey is the best honey to get is Manuka honey. Put it in your tea, put it on your skin, as long as you're not allergic to it, and it will help you. And it will help you dramatically help you in controlling and repairing your eczema. Okay. Antibacterial activity of honey on strains of Staph aureus from infected wounds. Remember, your body, if you have eczema, is constantly bombarded by staph, whether it's the friendly type or the unfriendly type. And when you take Manuka honey, when you put it in your tea and you drink it, or you put some on your skin at a site of injury, it will dramatically reduce the colonization of this bacteria and it will state. And that's extremely important. It has various medicinal properties, antibacterial properties, anti-inflammatory properties. I mean, honey is a drug from nature. Okay, it does so much for you. All right, it helps in like I said, anti-inflammatory and skin repair. Okay. Remember, colloidal oatmeal I mentioned to you earlier, colloidal oatmeal as well. It acts as a synthetic form of filaggrin that helps to keep the cells glued together, prevent irritants from coming in. And this is why colloidal oatmeal works so well for people with eczema when they apply it to their skin. The best type to get is this right here, the Joe Lauren Baby Colloidal Oatmeal Bath Bag. If your child has eczema, you want to bathe them in organic colloidal oatmeal, and lavender and rose hips also help as well. Also, if you get a vitamin C supplement, make sure it has rose hips in it as well. But you want to get this if you have a baby that suffers from eczema, because a lot of things you cannot give to a baby, like honey and other things, because they will get an allergic reaction to it and they could possibly die. So the safest thing to give to a child is doing this oatmeal bath, giving them vitamin D supplements, breastfeeding the child, and as well as giving them the probiotics that I showed you earlier at the doses recommended for infants. Okay. And those are the best things you can use for a child, so that way the child themselves can get their skin and stabilize their immune system. Right. For adults, they can take everything else. All right. Now, here's some moisturizers you can get that also helps alleviate atopic dermatitis. It's called Physiogel Hyperallergenic, if you can get it online. Or this right here, this Dermalogica Barrier Repair. These things both help to repair the lipid ceramide in the skin, helps to balance it, helps to stabilize it, helps to express it in the skin. So if you can get your hands on these things from Amazon, this will be a great addition to help repair the lipids and the ceramides in your skin. Repair. Eucerin, the pH 5 is a shower and lotion. This right here is balanced, pH balance at 5.4 to 5.9. And being that it's balanced, it has a citrate buffer that helps to restore and stabilize the skin's natural pH and encouraging enzyme activation and protection against irritations, which is extremely important. Again, glycerine, also called glycerol, is a humectant, which means it helps attract water, thereby trapping in the skin. This makes it a very effective moisturizer, and it both smooths dry skin and gives it a long-lasting protection and care. And also have dexpanthenol, which derives from pantothenic acid, also known as vitamin B5, and is an extremely effective moisturizer, improving hydration of the outermost layer of the skin to help reducing transepidermal water loss and maintaining skin softness and elasticity. This is extremely important, and this is extremely helpful. Right here also, you also have Eucerin Urea Repair, which has 10% urea plus ceramides and natural moisturizing factors. They don't even sell this in the US anymore that I know of. I had to get this, has to be purchased from Amazon, from overseas sellers. This is how good this thing works and why it's not saturated in the market. Even this too, this pH balance Eucerin, I cannot find this in stores anywhere. Also, this as well, the Physiogel, cannot find this in stores anywhere. They are so effective for atopic dermatitis. They're not even on the market here in the US. You got to get it imported, okay? Now, it shows you urea is often deficient in dry skin and therefore a common ingredient in moisturizers. Additional causes of xerosis are a lack of other natural moisturizing factors and skin barrier lipids. Supplying these vital molecules topically can restore the skin's ability to regulate hydration. When you're able to regulate hydration, there's no longer any xerosis, which means that there's not going to be no need for the body to scratch because the skin is not dry and is not irritated. And when you scratch, you further damage the skin that's already, dysfunctional, and you're introducing more irritants into the skin. Moisturizers containing a range of natural moisturizing factors such as urea and ceramide have been clinically proven to provide superior skin hydration and longer lasting moisturization to formulas containing just urea. The discovery the treatment of xerosis, that means dry skin. All right. And if you look here at the graphics on the right, it shows you how that works. All right. The formula containing MMFs and ceramide were also shown to significantly improve skin hydration, skin barrier function, visible dryness, and tactile roughness when compared to the effectiveness of other formulas. Skin tolerability was also very good. All right. Now, here's the last agreement, which is coal tar induces AHR-dependent skin barrier repair and atopic dermatitis. This is a medical scientific journal that shows you the metabolic processes of coal tar, right? Its effects on the body and how it helps to express the FLG gene, which is mutated and impaired when it tries to produce profilaggrin and filaggrin. And this helps to express that impairment so that it can function normally. When we go here to this next article, it says no increased risk of cancer after coal tar treatment in patients with psoriasis or eczema. There are so many ingredients, so many different lotions and shampoos on the market that actually do have coal tar in it. I used to use one from Neutrogena when I had really bad dandruff, and it helped to alleviate my dandruff to the point where now I don't have extreme dandruff anymore. Okay, so it's safe treatment when it's highly diluted. And if you read here, it tells you the percentage of dilution it must be in order for it to be safe, but there's no cancer risk from using it. And this article showed you that it can induce AHR-dependent skin barrier repair, starting with the FLO gene that it acts on to ensure that filaggrin operates normally. Family, you know how much research I had to do and experimentation that I had to do to ensure that all these things I suggested to you actually works? I've racked my brain for years, spent hours of sleepless nights doing this type of research to understand this disease this well enough to treat myself and to treat others. So when you get a regimen that is customized by us, you can best believe you can take it to the bank because of all the intense research that we've done that I have not seen nobody in this community have showcased to this day. Okay. All right. So here's some of the ingredients that you can use. Oxypore is for severe psoriasis and severe eczema. And mild or moderate eczema, you want to use Skyterra, which is coal tar foam, which is 2%. As you can see, it's highly diluted. It's only 5% of coal tar, and Oxypore, which is for severe eczema and psoriasis. And in the Skyterra, you only have 2% coal tar in it, and it's highly diluted, and there's other ingredients in it as well. These are two things are frontline defenses for people that have lesions or eczematic reactions on the skin in areas that are more prone to eczematic reactions. You want to put a small amount of this, a small dab on it, just to see how the body responds to it. And once you see results, you'll be good. But once you apply it, it can also dry out the skin. So make sure you put one of those lipid moisturizers on the skin as well to assist the coal tar in helping to repair the skin. All right. So those solutions that I gave you help to repair the ceramides in the skin. The coal tar helps to repair the filaggrin, and in conjunction together with the diet, ensuring that your skin flora is still there, and everything else, your vitamin D intake and everything else. Once you have the right balance of these ingredients that I'm showing here, plus my secret weapons that I cannot expound on in here because it would make this even more lengthy, we actually customize it for you. If you're unable to get it to work for yourself, then you can call on us and we'll set everything up for you in our paid package, okay? And I go into the dangers of topical steroids, antibiotics, synthetic antihistamines, and phototherapy. Because, one of the suggestions for eczema is phototherapy, but phototherapy can also give you skin cancer. All right. I go into why topical steroids is not good, because prolonged use of topical cortical steroids, which you can get over the counter, all right, can I mean, it does so much damage on the regulation, upregulation, downregulation of T cells, cytokines, interleukins, skin cell, all of that. It has an adverse effect when you use it for a prolonged period of time. And there are um, certain ranges of potency that various ones are getting. So when you're given a topical corticosteroid, you don't know how strong it is. Sometimes the dermatologist may tell you, sometimes he don't. But here I have the chart which shows you what categories that they're in. So for example, one of the ones that I used to use was fluocinonide. And I had that. That's a class 1 or a super potent topical corticosteroid. If I was to continue to use that for an excessive period of time, I will completely damage my immune system and my skin barrier functionality. All right. And that is those you typically get that, like there's a cream called I'm gonna show you right here, the ones that I actually use. So I was given this ointment, which I've used, and I was given this lotion because this lotion was supposed to stop any kind of fungus infections that I may have on the skin. Here's an over-the-counter corticosteroid. There's another one called Vanos that's used by prescription only. This fluocinonide is also by prescription only. But this right here, hydrocortisone cream, which most of us are familiar with, this is over the counter. This right here to the right, this desononide lotion, this is also prescription also. And this is me taking a picture of the actual items that I used over the years that never brought me permanent relief. Okay. And when I read these studies, I understood why that was the case. Okay. It showed you, I mean, this article goes into how topical steroids work, how oral corticosteroids for eczema works, alternatives to corticosteroids. Please research this thing and fully understand it before you put any of this in your body or on your skin. Hydrocortisone is a class 6 or a mild form of a topical steroid, okay? And the one that I actually had that I just showed y'all is a class 1, which means it's super potent. And that's why it's prescription strength. It's prescription strength, and it's only available via prescriptions, all right? Synthetic antibiotics, man, I mean, when you take synthetic antibiotics, they can cause multi-drug resistant bacteria. And any kind of multi-drug strain resistant bacteria, which means that it can evade penicillin, anything else that you give it, and it becomes a more aggregated form of the bacteria. So I don't recommend any kind of synthetic antibiotics. If you have to take it, fine. Again, consult your dermatologist or your physician. But if you can, you know, get yourself into the mindset of taking natural antibiotics, and there's so many of them. And I think I wanted to touch on some in here. I really didn't. But anytime you take a synthetic antibiotic, you must also take a probiotic as a follow-up because it also kills beneficial bacteria, whether it's on your skin, whether it's in your mouth, whether it's in your stomach, or women in your vagina area, because your vagina has you know, various bacteria down there. And if it's in balance, you get BV, yeast infection, all types of other stuff. So you must make sure that you have it balanced. Also, women, if you're washing down in that area, your vagina has a particular pH. And if you do not maintain that pH, you will have all types of issues down there as well. All right. So I'm not going to get into that in here because this lecture is not for that. But please do research on vaginal pH and make sure that whatever you use in that area is pH balanced. Okay. All right. So synthetic antihistamines, I go into here, and emerging safety issues by using this for an extended period of time when you just shut down the metabolic processes that the way the body normally works, and then forces it to do things in a synthetic way that the body does not know how to adjust to. You cause damage. All right. Phototherapy as well can also cause skin cancer. All right. So summary conclusion, you know, I showed you guys what eczema is. I showed you the root causes. I showed you the solutions. And like I said, you can take whatever you want to take from this presentation and apply it for yourself to see what works for you. If you are just unsure or apprehensive of doing it for yourself, we provide services where we can customize a regimen for you in our paid package and do follow-up one-on-one visits if you're local, or via the phone or video to check on your progress. And that's what we offer with our regimen package program. Okay. But I went over with you all the things that you need to know in order for you to take into your own hands control of your own body, so that way you can dissipate this disease called atopic dermatitis, i.e. eczema. All right. So if you want to book me or anybody that's in my organization that is a consultant for Natural Path to Eden to do a seminar, a workshop, because what I just gave you now, most of the time when I do workshops or seminars, it depends. Like the information I give you here, it's normally done in 3 sessions, okay? And it is normally a 6-hour presentation. So each session is 2 hours. So everything I just went over with you guys in here is broken down in 2-hour segments. And it's a 3-part seminar, okay? So it's like an all-day seminar, right? 2 hours break, 2 hours break, 2 hours break. And we pretty much just go out and teach this. If it's if the time is limited, then typically there is a modified, more streamlined, shorter version of this presentation where it just gets into the main hardline facts. And we use that mostly for our consultations, one-on-one consultations, where we give people just a brief seminar on what it is that we do. And once we pique their interest, to inspire them to go and take matters into their own hands in conjunction with whatever advice they get in from their physician or dermatologist, or they can purchase one of our paid packages. And with those paid packages, we give you a customized regimen and a follow-up visits to make sure that there's improvement, okay? If you want a health consultation, not a lecture, but a health consultation, or you're interested in purchasing our paid package programs that are customized for you, please email us at naturalpathtoeden@gmail.com. Also, subscribe to our YouTube channels, Kingdom Harbinger Ministries and Natural Path to Eden, for more educational videos, all right? So if you want to book for lectures, workshops, seminars, you can email kingdomharbinger@gmail.com. But if you want a health consultation, one-on-one health consultation, or you're interested in our paid package regimens, also email us at naturalpathtoeden@gmail.com. Now, I know, family, I probably went over my time because it is very late. It's after 1 o'clock. I don't know who else is still left in the chat. But at this time, if anybody is still in the chat and you have any questions or whatever the case may be, you can feel free to ask it now. I'm gonna spend maybe about 8 to 9 minutes. So at 1:30, I'm gonna shut down, and I'll be able to answer your questions if you have any. Also, if you have enjoyed this presentation, I know it was a lot of information, but I try my best to summarize it as much as I can. And in a follow-up video that I do on my live streams, I'll also just go into the core causes, core solutions, and just simplify everything for you. Okay, so you can go back and research it for yourself, or get the necessary items so that way you can take control of your eczema. If you enjoyed it, please click the thumbs up button. Like I said, this link is unlisted. So it's not public. So the only people that will be able to see it are the people that either sent the email or anybody that you may share this link with, which I'm okay with you sharing this link with. What I would like, though, if you do share this link and if you have benefited from this research that I shared with you and this information, please feel free to donate to us. You can go to our GoFundMe page, which is at Kingdom Harbinger, and you can donate there. You can donate via the super chat button that's here through this live stream as well. You can also become a monthly donator on our Patreon site, which you can look up DivineProspect for that. You can also send us a PayPal donation at kingdomharbinger@gmail.com. And a lot of these methods on donation will be in the description box, but this goes towards further research and development, and also allows us to have these free consultations with people who otherwise cannot afford to get access to this information. This is also for people in the field of dermatology to go back and research a lot of the stuff that I pointed out to help to enhance their practice, and just people who want to know what's going on with their body and how to take control of it. This lesson, lecture, seminar, workshop was designed to do just that. And I pray that it has been a blessing to you guys. Like I said, we can definitely simplify it for you in our paid package that we have. You can also, like I said, donate so that way we can do more of these free sessions. We had 20 or more people in this session. It's typically $100 for this seminar per person, which means that that's about $2,000 worth value that we just gave out tonight or more. The last I seen it was like 20, but now it probably is a little bit less because it's late. But this is, again, the amount of value that we put into this information, so that way you guys can know exactly what's going on. So I'm not just just throwing random suggestions out or remedies. I'm actually showing that I have a working knowledge of how this disease works. And I show you all the solutions are backed by scientific and medical journals and articles that have been put through the double-blinded placebo case study test, or the gold standard. Okay. So let me go ahead and see who's still up, who may have a quick question or two, and then we're going to sign off. Like I said, this will still be up, but it'll be unlisted. Anybody who is interested in it, you can definitely go back and watch it as many times as you need to be able to write down what you see on the screen, to write down notes of what you heard me say, to go back to research it for yourself, experiment for yourself, see what works for you, what doesn't work for you. But if you would like for us to give you one of our paid regimen packages, we also have that available. Email us at naturalpathtoeating@gmail.com, and we will help you out. All right. So let me see who's in the chat, and then we out of here. All right. All right. So let me see. All right, let me see. Okay, fam, I'm looking here now just to see what's going on. So as far as chlorine, you can break out for chlorine as well. Again, chlorine has a particular pH balance. You must see whatever chlorine is being exposed to you, what that pH level is, because if you have eczema, it can, make it worse. Okay. And also, my very colloidal amounts of chlorine can enter into the skin as well. And if the body, sets itself up to create antibodies against chlorine, then anytime that soaks through the skin and it comes into contact with those white blood cells, you will have an enzymatic reaction. Okay. But you can enjoy the pool if you repair the skin and you stabilize your immune system. All right. So you definitely can go back and swim and not actually be subject to that. And when your pores open up, the only time you get affected by anything is if the rest of the skin is not doing its job. And people who have eczema, your skin is not really doing its job, and it is affecting you. All right. So let me see. Well, there's paperwork that you can use depending upon your state to get you religious exemption and other types of exemption, medical exemption, so that way you don't have to get your child vaccinated. I'm not telling you whether to vaccinate your child or not. I'm just showing you the information. The decision is up to you and your physician whether or not you want to vaccinate your child. But all I'm showing is that there is a link between eczema and vaccinations, and several medical journals and articles have written and spoken about it. Okay. So let me see. Let's see. Okay, so I'm looking at, there's not a lot of questions here, and that's fine. I know it's late and there's not as many people in here as we had initially. But I don't really see any real questions. Somebody says, do you know of a plant-based substitute for the Derma Way product? Yes. You'd have to email me for that so I can look it up and send it to you. Okay. An alternate for people who are allergic to whey, which again is a byproduct of milk, and I try to stay away from milk. That's why I said if you are allergic to milk, and that cause you flare-ups, then you can't not use the Derma Whey product. You need to use an alternative. All right. Yeah, so I wish I hadn't vaccinated after the last one, is when she started having breakouts. Yeah. And again, the articles I show, when you go back to this, you can pause it and read it, and you'll see for yourself that there's a link between the two, especially the MMR, measles, mumps, and rubella vaccination can also exacerbate eczema. All right. So, yeah, it does get worse in the winter because the skin starts to dry out. And when it dries out it becomes more susceptible to infections, okay? The body has a particular temperature it tries to maintain, and if it cannot maintain that temperature, you will be subject to infiltration of disease, okay? So again, you know, I know some of it may have went out, some of it may have stayed. I apologize for that. So you said something about herpes in the ear. I don't know if I connected anything with herpes in the ear. So he says, what is the pH level you recommend for water? So the water pH level that you should have should not adversely affect your skin pH balance. So I would say water should be at a neutral pH balance. But a lot of times that may be difficult simply because a lot of us, you know, we shower not in, you know, alkaline acid neutral water. Most of the water that we wash in is acidic, you know, so it's not really a bad thing if it's acidic, but if that acidic rate that it's applying to your skin is destabilizing acidic state, because I don't know if your state is alkaline or acidic. More than likely your skin pH is alkaline if you have eczema, because serine proteases, AMPs, the sebaceous glands, all those things that's supposed to help buffer and stabilize the pH are out of whack. So the optimal water to wash in would be a pH of alkaline water for washing. You now drinking is different, but washing in alkaline water repeatedly if you have eczema is really not going to help. Okay, it's actually going to make things worse. All right. Yes, you can. It depends on what's in your diet. Like I said, people with eczema, you want to have 70% alkaline, 25% acidic, at least until you're able to recoup from eczema and you know that you're good. But if you're unable to eat the right foods, the best thing to do, next best thing to do, is to get a whole food multivitamin supplement. All right, and I put this on Facebook, and I'll probably share it next segment, next live stream I do, because it's getting late. But that's the best thing you want to do. You also want to detox regularly. You can use activated charcoal to detox, zeolite to detox. You can use bentonite clay to detox. So you want to make sure that you detox. Also, if you're going to do a detoxing, you can do an alkaline water and dark green leafy vegetable detox as well. That can help you detox also. If you can't afford to get the other things, or you can't find the other things, those will help as well. I do not recommend yogurt at all if you have eczema or any kind of allergies. All right. Yogurt is a byproduct of milk. Okay. So you want to stay away from yogurt. Yes, yogurt does have probiotics because it's fermented, but I would stay away from yogurt. I used to love yogurt. I used to eat that all the time, man. There was this, what's the name of that brand? Man. It's the brand that used to have like the yogurt, and then it used to have a clear cap, and they used to have like candies and sprinkles, all that type of stuff that you can like put into the yogurt. Man, I used to love that, man. And when I was a child, I used to love Go-Gurt. I used to love that. And then I realized that that also helped to increase my allergies, asthma, and eczema response. Remember, the next presentation that I do like this is going to be on asthma, and the next one after that's going to be on allergies, all right? And then from there, we're going to graduate to dealing with cancer, graduate to dealing with diabetes, graduate to dealing with HIV, AIDS. And these are also things that we try to help people with as far as educating them on, so they know what their options are, so that way they can live as long as they possibly can, okay? Almond milk is okay, but I would avoid any kind of tree nuts. So I wouldn't get almond milk. Coconut milk should be fine, but I would stay away from almond milk, all right? Because again, that's a tree nut, and you've seen that on the FDA's list as most common food allergy. So I would stay away from it until you know for certain that you're good, okay? So if you want the foods on that list, if you want that, I can email it to you. So you can email me at kingdomharbinger@gmail.com or naturalpathtoeden@gmail.com, and I'll send you that chart so you can see the foods that are alkaline and the foods that are acidic, all right? Family, I hope, yeah, so the artesian water. So you want to drink alkaline water. You never want to get water that's excessively alkaline, like 9.5, 10. It should always be anywhere from a pH of 7 to maybe a pH of 8 or 8.8 the most. All right, 8.8, even 8.8 is pretty high. But if you're sick, like internally sick, not really from eczema, I would suggest that you drink alkaline water anywhere from 7.7 to 8.8 to even 9 during the healing process. And once you're healed, then you go back to a slightly alkaline of 7.7, which you can get from Fiji water. Anything with like 8.0, that's fine. Anytime you go to like 8.8 or higher, that's pretty excessive. And you can suffer from alkalosis, which means you can have vomiting, you can have sweats, you can have weakness. It's all types of stuff you can get from alkalosis. So some people think that they're taking all this alkaline stuff and like, man, alkaline is great, you know, and then they get sick and they don't know why they're getting sick. It's because you could be suffering from alkalosis. All right. Keep that in mind. It's important. All right. Well, I advertise these streams on both YouTube and Facebook and Instagram. So whenever the next one launches that we come out publicly with, which will be asthma, that will be advertised as well. You will also email us for an invite. And if all slots are filled, it's just for those people invited. If the slots are not filled, you know, I'll do a favor and open it up. But everything is based on the donations that we get from the people in order to provide these free consultations or these free seminars or workshops, you know, because, you know, it takes a lot of time for me to put this work in to do these type of things and then put together customized regimens to help people as well. So the donations help extremely with this type of research. And you guys know I research and do a lot of other stuff. But when it comes to health, I put an extreme amount of research in it and make sure that it's very laden with information. So when people who are experts in the field go back over what I'm presenting, they can say, wow, you know what? I can't even argue with that. You know, and that's how meticulous that I am with my research. And, you know, the funding that I get helps me to get access to various research, access to articles, access to experts in the field, as well as for my time that I sacrifice to do these things. You know, it's a huge impact that I work a contract job, I have a family, I deal with external family, I deal with other activism, pro-activism in the community. You know, I deal with the restoration of my culture. I run an organization. I do services. I mean, there's so much that I do that, you know, the funds that we get that are donated, it just helps all the way around for everything that I put work in. And y'all can see where the donations go to. You know, it's not just sitting there and I'm just giving you bubble gum type stuff that's not working. You know what I'm saying? It's going into things that is life altering and it's heavily impactful. All right. And this is what I'm willing to sacrifice on behalf of the community for those who really appreciate it and are willing to support. All right. So with that, family, I'm going to sign off. All right. Thank you again for watching. I hope you enjoyed this session. Please forgive the lack of verbal acuity on my part because I'm a bit tired. And also, please forgive any kind of technical difficulties with the stream because I know it was probably going in and out a couple of times. I was unable to monitor it because I was doing the presentation. But please feel free to go back over this video as many times as you need to so you know exactly what eczema is, what you can do about it. And then if you need our services, we're here and we're available for you. All right. So I love you, family. Thank you for watching. Like I said, feel free to share since you have the link to whoever you want to share it to, whoever needs it. And like I said, those who want to donate, in the description box will be the methods in which you can donate. And again, you know, let's keep giving so that way you can be a blessing to somebody else who may not be able to get access to information. There's so many of these consultations that we give out for free to people with low income households who suffer from eczema, asthma, and allergies. And we go and give them free consultations. You know why we can afford to do it? Because you guys donate. And as long as you continue to donate, this is you, you know, doing your community service work for your community. You know, you win vicariously through us because we're the agents and you're just the energy behind the agent. So that way the act can be performed. So again, you know, I'll have videos with us going into the projects and so forth and actually, you know, giving free consultations, free work. Work collectively together to resolve this societal ill within their community. All right. So I love you, family. Thank you for everything that y'all do for me. Hopefully you appreciate everything I do back for you. You guys are worth the sacrifice anytime. If you need me, I'm here. Email me, inbox me, or whatever the case may be. And let's do it. All right. Thank you for watching, family. I love you. I appreciate y'all. I'll see you again on Freestyle Friday. Peace and shalom.